Live from Wisconsin, welcome race fans one and all back to Green Flag TV. This afternoon, we get set to duke it out once again for the VSCA Sports Car Championship in their final race before the summer break. Welcome to Road America and to the JRT Summer Sprint. My name is Ola Rembo, bringing you all of the action this afternoon alongside Austin Edstrom. And boy, what a race this is going to be. 2 hours and 40 minutes getting set to kick off from this beautiful 6.4 kilometer, 4 mile facility. It is one of the biggest tracks we go to on the calendar and should be one of the most exciting as well.
Yeah, Road America puts on a good show every single time we come around this place. I haven't seen a multi-class race here in a hot minute, but I think that this is going to be absolutely exciting. A lot of long straightaways to get, a good chunk of the passing done, so you don't have to go too crazy. But if you do catch somebody in the middle of Sector 2, coming around that carousel especially, it could get a little bit hairy coming towards the kink with the faster class cars coming through. So a couple different trouble spots to look out for. There's going to be some pretty crazy dive bombs coming down to this corner right here that you're looking at, Canada corner. But we're going to jump to our points real quick. Take a look at that GTP field with Mayor Sim Speed Performance up at the top by just about 100 points over Hack Racing.
Right now, MSP have been the team to beat as of late in your GTP category. Composite Performance, after being DQ'd out of the Circuit of the Americas race with that win, with that strong performance, I should say, at the Glen, they're able to jump their way back up to 5th, but still sit 500 points out. The championship fight still not over. They got the opportunity to try to power back in these closing few races. 3 will remain after this afternoon. Looking down to the LMP2 standings, Going Racing remains at the top by just over 100 from Rising Panda Racing. But Rising Panda have been slowly reeling that gap back in. Could we see Gowen's dominance in the LMP2 category coming to a close?
We very well could be, and you never know. We've still got a handful of races to go in this season, about to get into the summer break after this race. So looking forward to seeing if Rising Panda can get that championship lead down ever so slightly before we do jump into that break and see if they can come back fighting at the back half.
Fisher Motorsports remain 1-2 in GT Pro, but they have flipped around for the 3rd race in a row. The number 84 car now sits on top of that number 44 entry. Kinetic trails behind in a distant 3rd, seeing what they can do to get themselves up and rolling. RPM Racing still sits 4th. The DS Racing have dropped back to 5th. But right now, the big eyes are all going to be on that battle for your GTM battle at the moment. Screeching Moose Motorsports has had a dominant charge, and they are continuing to look to be the drivers to beat. And while 2nd place is trailing distantly, look at the battle for 3rd. Firestorm, Full Send Racing, and MSP separated by just 7 points. When you can score over 100 points in one race, that's impressive to see a points gap that tight.
Yeah, they're all within 7 for 3 positions, but you can't count out Often the S's Racing in 6 or Digital Chicane's number 93 in 7th. Both of those teams could take that 3rd position by the end of this as well.
So the point standings are still looking tight as ever, except for the GTM race lead. But right now, you've got qualifying very much underway, and a good host of drivers still looking to put down some final lap times with about 1 minute and 20 seconds left here in qualifying. Now, Austin, one of the big stories I think coming in today is, of course, going to be the kink. Oh boy. You want to talk about a sketchy place to lap cars? That is a sketchy place to lap cars, is in that kink, the corner leading up towards Canada corner. And they were making it pretty darn clear in the drivers meeting just a little while ago. If you go for a late lunge and then trying to lap somebody, even if there's no contact, if the car you're lapping crashes because they had to go evasive because of your late lunge, you could still be found at fault.
Yeah, if you're one of the faster cars coming through the kink and you don't have any overlap before you get to the turn-in point, you've just got to wait ever so slightly. You're going to be able to get on the throttle better. You're going to be able to turn off of the exit of the corner better and get down to the inside for Canada corner. And to be fair, you're going to make the pass before Canada corner. So just a little bit of patience is going to be needed at times through that section of the racetrack. Pretty long racetrack, so I don't think we're going to see too many people get caught there, but it's still going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen multiple times tonight over the course of a 2 hour and 40-minute race. We're going to see a couple close calls, especially through that corner. It is just so tight, so treacherous, and well, with the multi-class racing, I mean, that always throws in a loop.
It is going to be wild figuring out what we're going to be able to do here throughout the course of the racing action here this afternoon. But before we get to all that, we got to see how everything's going to line on up. So let's take a rundown for your starting grid this afternoon. for the JRT Summer Sprint. Started on pole, it is going to be Pedro Vargas for NGC Esports team. I believe that's going to be their first pole here of the season. Patrick Fogle for competent performance brings it up in the number 2 spot. World of Sim Racing's Danny Fonte is in 3rd, with HJC Racing down in 4th. Team Hardcore is in 5th. GS Racing Esports team down in the number 6 spot. From there, you've got Jordan Erickson, Ricardo Santos, Gabriel Peckley for Bravo Shatton. MSP brings up the top 10 with Grizzly Motorsports and Fisher Motorsports to round out so far the 12-car GTP field.
Looking over to the LMP2 field, Ryan Ware for Rising Panda Racing leading up the LMP2 cars. Luca Harmoning in 2nd, Travis Linscomb Hatfield in 3rd, Damian Benke in 4th, Garrett Spence in 5th, Nicholas Gowen in 6th, 7th is Michael Simpson with Rain DeBoer in 8th, Chris Cadiz in 9th, Jason Arnsberg in 10th, and Andy Banfield rounds out the 11-car LMP2 field.
Moving down to GT Pro, you've got Bruno Carrera for DS Racing Esports team started on pole. Jeremy Littleton, that's still new. Vulture Motorsports GT Pro entry is in the number 2 spot. North Sim Racing for Piero Leon brings it up in 3rd. Stefan Knowles for Fisher Motorsports is in the number 4 spot. Hugo Oliveira is down in the number 5 spot for Delta Racing. GS Racing Esports is in 6th with Neil Middleton in 7th. Marco Pereira is down in 8th with Mark DeBoer for RPM Racing in 9th. Kinetic Racing's Vincent Libier will bring up the top 10 with Florian Eigner bringing up the 11th spot here.
Going to be rounding out the field with the GTAM class. Starting up in 1st, no surprise, the Digital Chicane number 80, Matthew Orvex, and then the Digital Chicane number 93, completing the front row for Digital Chicane with Kyle Lowe in that number 93. Patrick Boylard for Often S's Racing in 3rd, Antonio Cardoso in 4th for DS Racing Esports, Sheris Venkataraju in 5th, Ronald Gross in 6th, Thomas Baker 7th, Aaron Beaver 8th, Taylor Parsons in 9th, Earl Urexoy in 10th, Carl Felver starts at 11th with Tyler Tucker on his outside in 12th, Mark Romaninski in 13th, and Roy Vermeer in 14th, round out the GTAM field.
So all drivers are set. You see the field rolling off for a long pace lap around the Road America circuit. Only one driver will fail to start this race, and that will be Patrick Boylard, the Off of the S's Racing number 83 Ferrari, is going to be having to start this race down from pit road. Not an ideal start then for Boylard, as that Off of the S's Racing Ferrari is going to be down at the tail end of the field with that pit road start. Right now, I think it is all eyes on Digital Chicane. This 93 entry right here in the Ferrari, they absolutely smoked the GT competition. Even in the GT Pro category, you saw the Digital Chicane gang able to put themselves almost a second quicker than the GT Pro leader from FP1, and pretty much a second up for the GTM winner of FP1 as well.
It's a long track. It's a track that you can kind of see those gaps show. You know, we went to Watkins Glen a couple weeks ago. You're not really going to see those big gaps at Watkins Glen, I don't think. A lot of that racetrack is one straightaway in particular, just coming out of turn 1, you're full throttle. Here you got a bunch of different straightaways, so you got to get a bunch of different exits correct and make sure that you keep your momentum. So I just think that there's a lot more opportunity at this racetrack for time loss and gain through the course of a lap. And well, we saw that a pretty good chunk in qualifying, like you said, with a couple of these gaps throughout the field. But to be fair, it's tightened up relatively well across a lot of these, except for the GTM. Those things are scattered all over the place in terms of race pace.
Yeah, obviously race pace can differ dramatically, and so far, I mean, it's tough, right? Because Digital Chicane, again, running 1-2 in qualifying right now, and right in the midst of the GT Pro with a healthy buffer back to 3rd. It's a shame, right? Because, I mean, this is very much a team that could find themselves in contention for the GTM Championship right now. It's Screeching Moose Motorsports. They could, and they should, be right up there in the fray, but it has just been bad luck bears for that team ever since the green flag of the 24 Hours of Daytona, where they got spun around in turn 3. It has just been a never-ending barrage. The fact that they are so far in the standings, I think it's a testament to their spirit on never wanting to give up the fight, even when it all seems like it's going, well, down the tubes.
I don't know if I've ever seen the bad luck bug bite harder than it has bit both the Digital Chicane cars so far this year. And to your point, I can't believe one of them still sitting second. One of them's been a little bit more snake bit, back to 7th, but they're still in a fight to where they could get up to 3rd by the end of the season. So Both those teams doing a good job at least keeping themselves in it, because honestly, with the amount of bad luck that they have, that they've had so far, neither one of them should have a chance at the championship, but one of them is still sitting P2, only 200 points behind a team that won the first 4 races of the year. So that GTM battle up towards the front in terms of points is going to continue to close up, I believe.
Working our way through Canada Corner, I think one of the last really hard braking zones on the racetrack. You fire through this very tight, winding section. It was talked about as well in the driver's meeting. If there's going to be a full course yellow, probably going to be in there with all those close walls. We'll see how everything's going to pan on out. But for now, the iRacing safety car, get it set to make that drive down and into pit road. We're happy that you're joining us here on the Saturday morning, a Saturday afternoon, a Saturday evening, wherever it may happen to be. Wherever you are watching us here from on Greenflight TV, Pedro Vargas for NGC Esports team into the restart zone. Patrick Vogel to his outside. Green flag's out. We're underway for the summer sprint.
All the GTPs and LMP2s taking off down the front straightaway towards turn number 1. Everybody cycling in just about single file towards the front. A couple 2-wide battles throughout. Trading paints trying to make a move. Couple other LMP2s getting through as the GT cars are starting to climb the hill and come up to the start-finish line. GT Pro 992, Digital Spirit DS Racing brings us to green for the GTs. And right behind him is the GT AM. That's Digital Chicane's number 80. So a lot of representation whenever it comes to the GT field up at the top, up at the front of it, excuse me. And we all funnel down into turn number 1. Once again, the GTs taking it pretty easy as well. Nobody forcing anything too heavy. Everybody giving plenty of room. Don't want to see any crazy lap 1 incidents.
So far, looking like the whole field's managed to get their way through cleanly, at least the first couple of corners. Nobody so much as going off the racetrack. As I say that, Nicholas Goen finds the off-track area at about turn 6, but gets back on with no further incident. So it's looking like a good drive so far. We'll check in briefly on the GT cars, and well, there we go. First spin, Promise No Shot, then Trading Paints Racing. Both going around in your GTP field right now. Everybody in a mad scramble down towards the kink, and this is one of the most treacherous corners on the circuit. Look at the speeds that the GTPs fire through the kink.
I mean, they've got to be just about full throttle coming through that corner. I mean, they are absolutely flying around that fast right-hander, trying to set themselves up good for that long straightaway coming down to Canada Corner and getting a good exit back so that they can have a good little final sector before they get back on the front straightaway and that other long front stretch where you just got to make sure you get the pedal down coming out of the final corner. Now the GT's coming across the carousel, or coming around the carousel, coming down towards that kink. These are the cars that I'm a little bit more worried through the kink, even by themselves, even whenever they're not in traffic. They handle just a little bit stiffer, a little bit slower, a little bit stiffer. Can't quite get through the corner just as well. I'm a little bit more worried about a couple of these guys dipping a left side tire off into the grass as they come through the kink and potentially spinning that thing out. But the first time through for everybody, the kink looks to be no problem.
Right now, Vargas leads the way in one of the Acuras. He is currently headed up the GTP field and looking like it's going to be all safe and sound for him. Let's take a look at what happened to Jordan Eriksson and Gabriel Peckley on lap number 1 of this incident. And they just had it coming together at the apex, and it looks like Provisto Shatton just went off and tried to avoid that. That's not bad, though. I mean, I think most people would happily take a spin instead of clattering into another car and potentially giving yourselves a whole host of damage. We do have trouble with Scott Meredith for Grizzly Motorsports, looking like they have possibly dropped out of the session altogether after just 1 lap.
Oh, my goodness, not another one. The disconnects have been coming in heavily over the last couple weeks, I gotta say. Fortunate to see it plague somebody on lap number 1 here. Hopefully they can get back in the service in time. Unfortunately for them, this is a sprint race for the VSCA Sports Car Championship. Still 2 hours and 40 minutes, so it's still a decently long race, but it's still a sprint. This is not that 6-hour of the Glen. This is not the 24-hour of the Daytona. This is not the 12-hour of Sebring. These guys do not have the time to lose laps in pit road and hope and pray for enough cautions to get your laps back. The only good news is it does take a hot minute to get around Road America, so hopefully they can get back into the session, have a driver change, whatever they need to do, get that tow done and only lose a lap or 2 so that the cautions can maybe help them out later, but it's still not what you want to see, and there they go.
Taylor Parsons and Screech Moose Motorsports getting around Aaron Beaver, and around goes Beaver. The MSP Mercedes finds himself spinning off and into the grass. Now, Well, I think that may have been weight transfer coming up and over the hill. It's a very easy mistake to make, and it is one that many drivers have made time after time again. And oh, it's at the back of the SMM car in front of him.
Yeah, these things get really light coming over the hill, like you mentioned. And while it wasn't weight transfer like you mentioned per se, I do think it's a pretty similar incident, right? He makes that little bit of contact right whenever we come over the crest of the hill when the car is the absolute lightest and where contact's really going to screw you over. And we saw it there. He just got that nose bent in a little bit. And, well, like I said, coming over that hill, you just can't make contact. If you do, you're asking for trouble. And unfortunately there, a little spin, but just a little tap to the inside wall. Nothing too serious for that MSP number 34.
Jordan Erickson and Gabriel Peckley currently fighting their way back to the LMP2 field after they both found themselves spun around on the first lap of this race. Slowly
Full Send Racing. Full Send Racing has crashed hard coming out of the kink.
And it looks like the kink has claimed its first victim of the day. Take a look.
Too much curb on the inside, got twitchy on the exit, tried to correct it, overcorrected, and that's a nose into the outside fence.
You're right, that is a hard lick, and that's it's one of the hardest licks you can take into that fence. Now, the damage is repairable. I think that's the good news. Will we see them down in the pit road? That's the big question right now. Doesn't look like it. They don't think it's bad enough to have to come down pit road. They're going to try to hope for a safety car to come out so they can get that fixed properly under yellow. Whoa, and now way off, and it goes off in the S's. Although I think that was off at turn 1, as that was a high-speed off down into the opening corner.
Oh, he's pulling it to a stop and calling it quits. He didn't hit anything. I'm surprised.
Oh,
wow. Oh,
dear.
wow.
Well, that's not what you were hoping to see early on. Was that the MSP car that just
it was.
That just spun himself out earlier?
It was. That was the 34. And it looked like he pinched him too heavy onto the inside of turn 1. That looked pretty straightforward.
And now Garrett Spence losing control. He just caught too much curb off the final corner. So we'll keep things with these battles here right now. Jordan Erickson still cutting through the field. He just got around Travis Linscomb Hatfield for Fisher Motorsports. And right now, Fisher running 4th in the LMP2 field. A lot of these battles in the prototype started to break apart early on for the GTPs. The LMP2s, you got 4th, 5th, and 6th that are still packed up line of stern. The battle for the lead is on as well, with Luca Harmony for GAC Racing Esports really hounded the gearbox of Ryan Ware.
Yeah, both these guys close to each other, and I got to point out, they are all starting to come up on the GT field. We're getting closer and closer. Those GTPs are coming out of the carousel. The back half of the GT Anfield is coming out of the kink right now, so they're going to be catching them in half a lap or so, and the LMP2s are not too far behind. So this race for the lead could end up being a race for the lead through traffic within the next lap or two.
And here you see the battle for 9th, Going Racing, just getting around VRG Sport, and that was for the 9th spot. So Nicholas Goen on the charge as he is moving his way back to the field as well. Remember, Goen had that off on lap number 1 as well, and that is why we see them so far down the order when they have been so dominant in that category all season long so far. Check it back in on the GT Pros, and well, speak of the devil, we got a couple going around.
Fisher Motorsport, Delta Racing, Dogs on Web Racing, all of them through the dirt, spinning around. Is that coming out of the carousel? Everybody having an issue? No, sorry, coming out of turn. Yeah, my mistake. Did they really call that turn 3? Because that's turn 2.
They do. There's a tiny little bend in the road between 1 and 3. And here we go, fight for the lead. And Harmony is through to the LMP2 race lead. So we'll take a look at that pass, and then we'll show you what just happened to cause a pretty hefty pile up down to turn 3. Oh, sorry, that was a different pass altogether. That was Tri-State Racing getting around another, and this was the move. It looks like Rise It Panda just got a bad run to the final corner.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the pre-race. You've got to be so good around every single one of these corners that has a long straightaway at the end of it. Road America is very much a exit speed racetrack. Oh man, that was the contact through 3, sending the 3 GT cars around, just getting in a little bit too deep. And again, that's probably just trying to get that good exit off because you know how much it matters. But well, you can't drive into the back of somebody like that.
It's on board with Cardosa. He did a great job to avoid contact. He actually didn't hit anything. He brought it to a stop avoiding that. That was some great heads-up driving there. Sure, he lost a lot of time. He lost a lot of spots. Could have been worse.
The GTs or GTPs are starting to come through the back of the GT field. Just saw a couple of them go to the inside of a couple others through the kink, and and it's starting to be the nervy moments, the sketchy moments. Whenever I see a GTP dive to the inside of a GT through that kink, there's just not enough room for two cars, and especially one going so much faster than the other. Everybody able to get through okay so far on this first go around. The entire GTP field still has a lot of these GT cars to get through. I think it'll be completed by the end of the next lap, but I am worried there's going to be a little bit more kink mayhem before the end of it.
Battle for 7th is on in GTP. Fisher Motorsports, DS Racing Esports team, and Mayor Simpson Performance are all going at it right now. And the mad dash through one. There's turn 2, and then down to the turn number 3. Whoa! And around goes DS Racing. Locks up the brakes, and for Ricardo Santos, that was a good save. He'll drop back to 9th, but he'll save the car from too much damage. Ryan Ware for Rising Panda Racing is into pit road. What's going on here?
He went off track not too long ago, but maybe a little bit of right front damage. He drove in a little bit too deep into turn number 1.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And a little bit of left. Yeah, he made maybe a little bit of left rear damage as well. He ended up hitting the tire barrier on the very outside of turn number 1, trying to make this move. Just drove in too deep, made some contact with his right front. It sent him wide into the dust, and then he tagged that barrier on the left. And I see a little bit of left front damage, a little bit of right front damage, and I think there's a little bit of left rear as well.
Yeah, that'll do it for sure. That's unfortunate, to put it mildly. But so Rising Panda Racing, they go from challengers to comeback drivers, and we'll have to see if they'll be able to make up that time anywhere throughout the course of this race. The battles are heating up right now in both of the prototype fields. Rain DeBoer and Michael Simpson in the fight for 4th in your in your LMP2 field. In GTP, there you see World of Sim Racing trying to get around the Fisher Motorsports GT Pro entry and cannot find a way around him. DS Racing is going to get through. Team Hardcore is looking to get in the mix here as well. About a 4-car fight here. Fisher Motorsports is also in the fray. Battle for the lead as well. It was under half a second.
Yeah, 12 minutes gone in this one just about, and we're still all packed up. All these guys racing hard. The GTs not letting each other get away, and typically the GTPs spread out ever so slightly, but we're not really seeing much of that. Like you mentioned, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all within a second of the GTPs, all coming through the GT cars, just trying to get through without damage, hold serve, and then once you find that clean air, make your moves, make your passes. So a little bit of a sketchy moment there coming out of turn 3 as the GTP got through on the inside. I think one of the GT cars was trying to get out of the way, but maybe just hold the racing line. It's a little bit more predictable coming out of these corners for the faster cars.
And World of Sim Racing overshoots turn 5. So DS Racing gets to the inside and up the hill for 6. DS Racing going to get through, so Pedro Espadina is into the 4th spot, and Fonte is going to have to drop back to 5th and try to bounce back.
What can he do now that he's in the clean air? Can he reel in that gap up front, right? The top 3 have kind of pulled away from the rest of the GTP field. Do these guys have enough in it to, the DS Racing Esports team, do they have enough in that thing to bridge that gap down now that they're in that 4th place spot? They're in the clean air. They got a couple slower cars that they got to deal with coming through the kink. Not the place you want to be. You're going to lose time right here, but he makes a smart move. He just stays in right behind, undercuts him on the exit of the corner. It does stack him up a little bit, causes a 4-car stack up for the GTPs coming down to Canada corner, and he's going to have to go defensive.
This is on board with Jacob Lehman right now, trying to see if he can make a battle. He's going to go to the right side of World of Sim Racing to try to make this move. That shows just how tight it is. And Danny Fonte continues to drop. He's now down to 6th. Lehman punches his ticket into the top 5. And Espadina currently running away with 4th at the head of this GTP battle.
You could tell that Fonte was trying to go for a move for 4th, trying to get something coming out of Canada corner, but there was a GT car on the outside on the exit of that corner. Lehman got the better run coming out, undercut him, and used that GT as a pick and picked up that spot. You're going to see that plenty of times through the slow traffic today. Close contact between a couple of the LMP2s. Going, able to make the move, but I thought he was going to get turned coming out of Canada quarter.
Yeah, Vulture Motorsports ended up having a little bit of a close shave there. Tried to cut in and go 3 wide around the GT Pro car. Didn't end up working out. Vulture Motorsports, this is a big day for them. Jason Ahrensberg, the first LMP2 driver in competition for Vulture Motorsports in VSCA. They just finished all of the registration requirements for that team earlier this week. So Vulture Motorsports putting their first LMP2 entry onto the grid. They right now run in 8th place out of 11 in your LMP2 field. Garrett Spencer, Tri-State Racing, is into pit road.
Yeah, a couple early pit stops. I'm not quite sure what happened to Tri-State Racing. Why would they be coming in so early? I don't think that they've had. Well, there was an issue a couple laps ago coming out of the final corner. Actually, now that I'm checking it out, he spun out of the final corner a handful of laps ago. Lap number 3 was when it happened, but there was no damage. He didn't hit anything. So I'm surprised to see the 321 come down.
Possible strategy call for that car. Remember, there have been some BOP adjustments for this race. All cars are now down to 70% fuel tank limitations now entering this race here this afternoon. And that could very well be impacting the strategy that we're seeing, except for the Delaras. The Delaras currently have 95% fuel tank capacities. Everybody else is up to 70. So could that potentially be part of what's causing this? We're checking on the GT Pro battle. This right now is for 7th, just ahead of them. You got the fight for 4th.
Yeah, side by side coming down into Canada corner. GSE on the inside, taking that spot away from Torque Freak. Sorry, Torque Freak taking it away from World of Sim Racing. My mistake. Coming down to the final corner. What you don't want to do is kind of be in the lead coming down to this front, or coming down to these straightaways, right? You want to have the draft in front of you. Unfortunately for Torque Freak, they make that move, and now they've got, they're kind of on the back step. They got a good run coming out of the final corner to where they may not be able to make a move, but it's worrisome. You take a position from somebody and you don't have anybody right in front of you, or within a second gap, and you don't have that toe. You're always worried about that move coming back at you before you get down to turn 1. But Torque Freak had a good enough exit coming out of the final corner, didn't make any mistakes, and they're able to hang on to it all the way down the front straightaway, coming down to turn 3. See if they can do it again down the longest straightaway the second longest straightaway coming down to turn 5.
3-way battle. Torque Freak Racing, World of Sim Racing team, RPM Racing, and Kinetic Racing all in the line in the battle for the final spot inside the top 5. Neil Middleton heads the way from Marco Pereira, Mark DeBoer, and Vincent Levy are also in the mix. Here comes the Fisher Motorsports LMP2 cutting through, and that will give Torque Freak Racing a lot of breathing room. That was an optimal place for him to see his competitors get lapped just behind him.
A lot of these GT cars kind of stacking up, and well, the faster guys are trying to get through. A little bit of a roadblock for these LMP2s that are trying everything they can. Man, getting squeezed out, coming down into contact between a couple of them. That's going to send the LMP2 off the racetrack, 3 wide. Couple GTs fighting for position for 5th. It's not what Tri-State Racing wants to see, though. You don't want that contact with a slower class car.
Tri-State Racing's sister car, the 333, really flirting with the grass strip on the exit of the carousel there, down into the kink. It's going to really break out both the battle for 7th in GT Pro and the battle for 4th in LMP2. That was all a massive battle trying to slice its way through. The Tri-State race cars running 4th and 5th right now, and then Scours this Racing, the one that was tagging on just a little ways behind, and they are now starting to break off pretty significantly. Vulture Motorsports under 5 and going racing still. VRG Sports still under pressure. Haven't checked into the GTMs in a little bit. For the GTMs, surprisingly, they're the class now that hasn't seen too much action this afternoon. Right now, the closest battle for position in their class is 1 for 6 between Real Pixel Motorsports and DS Racing Esports team.
Yeah, the GTM guys fighting hard. They had to start all the way towards the back of the pack, and unfortunately for them, that ended up being way further back from the race leaders of the GTM field than you would normally see, with the 80 and the 93 both qualifying up in the top 4 of all GT cars. Kind of relegates a lot of these other GTMs back to a place where they can't really even fight for that race lead until we maybe see a caution flag, and they can kind of bridge that gap back up towards the front. They had to start behind a whole host of other cars that those digital chicane cars at the front didn't have to start behind, and just look at that gap in the GTM field because of that. The 80 and the 93 pulled out a 15-second gap over 3rd, and this battle for 6 is 22 seconds behind our race leaders in GTM. We're only 19 minutes into this thing.
Could we see a pass potentially here for that 6th position? DS Racing is closing. They're going to make the lunge. They're going to go for the lunge. down to the inside at turn 6. And put Antonio Cardoso up into the number 6 spot. Ronald Gross going to drop back to 7th.
Plenty of respect between those two coming through that heavy braking zone. A lot of room given there by Gross on the outside. DS Racing really didn't push the issue too hard. Cardoso gave him plenty of room, didn't pinch him all the way up to the outside, coming down to the heavy braking zone. So good respect between a couple of these GTM runners in the early going. You know, you can ruin your race with 2 hours and 20 minutes to go, but you can't win it. And well, that just looked like that was good race preservation between the two of them.
We'll see if Cardoso can close up the gap at all to the right now, the top runners. Right now, Orveche and Kyle Lowe, the only GT car that is in front of them for overall position is Bruno Carrera, the GT Pro race leader. Otherwise, they are ahead of the entire GTM and the entire GT Pro field. Again, a very impressive feat, showing that perhaps these digital chicane runners might have a place for them in GT Pro for next season.
I'm telling you, I really think that digital chicane number 80 has a chance in the Drivers' Championship. I believe that that's the one sitting second. If it's the 93, then that's the one I'm talking about. But I'm pretty confident it's the 80. They've got every chance in the world to pluck off that top spot from Screeching Moose Motorsports. The only problem is Screeching Moose is just the most consistent team, right? Even if they're slow, they somehow finish up in the top 3 inexplicably. And whenever they're a third-place car, they win the race. So digital chicane just kind of has to mind their manners, don't make any mistakes, because they're clearly the 2 fastest cars in the GTM field the last couple of weeks. They just got to continue to keep their nose clean, and I think that one of them are going to have a shot at the championship.
Battle is on for 6th. Kinetic Racing trying to get around World of Sim Racing, Porsche versus BMW. Pereira going to hang on, and Labier cannot make that look for the number 6 spot in your GT Pro field. The GTP leaders are closing in. NGC Sports Team started to be put under heavy fire by Composite Performance, and we could see a fight for the overall lead on their hands.
Yeah, they've been relatively close this whole time. Vargas has not gotten away from Fogel at all. I mean, maybe that gap stretched out to the second half over the second place runner for a moment, and well, that was the max it was, and it immediately started coming down. Vargas started catching the lap traffic, started getting slowed up, and I think he's just been held up in a couple of worse positions than Patrick Fogel right behind him. And Christophe Demay is not too far back either in that third place spot for Hack Racing. So top 3 for GTP, all relatively close to each other, and here they are coming through the slower traffic. This is not what you want to see coming up to the King.
No, not entirely, is it? It's not ideal when you see this. Oh, that's going to be tight! And Fogel makes the move for the lead. Now he's caught behind Rising Panda Racing in the King, and Patrick Fogel, just like that, snipes the lead away from Pedro Vargas.
Oh, man. It's kind of what I was talking about. You don't want a car to get out of your way. You want them to run a predictable line. MSP number 34 kind of got out of the way for the LMP2, and that really slowed up your GTP race leader, and he just gave it over to Composite Performance. That's the ebbs and flows of multi-class racing for sure.
You saw there as well how much the Acura twitched on the brakes. He was...
Your race leader just had to go through the dirt. He might have made contact with the Ferrari getting by. Earl Orixoy just drifted left in the middle of the straightaway, just about took out your GTP leader.
We'll jump back. We'll have to jump a little bit further forward if we don't have the whole event. But you can see here, I mean, tucked up right behind Rising Panda Racing, made the move down to the can of the corner, and this has allowed him to break up a 1.3 second gap on the field. Coming up on Ronald Gross and Full Send Racing. That was a close shave in of itself with the Lamborghini, but I think it was with the Ferrari up the road where this just about went sideways.
Oh, it was. And Earl's kind of running the middle of the racetrack. You almost don't know where he wants you to go, but he leaves you that left side line, and then he just drifts back across. And that could have been absolutely massive. I mean, that would have been a huge penalty too, by the way. That would have been absolutely astronomical.
Battle is back on for 6th in GTP. World of Sim Racing, Fisher Motorsports, Mayor Sims Performance, all looking to go at it. And this is tucked up right behind a good chunk of GT traffic. They're getting around one of the BMWs. They're trying to battle it out with the MSP Mercedes just in front. And looking like this is a group that's going to get itself relatively sorted. They're going to go around the outside of the carousel.
right between these two coming down to the kink. They got some GTs in front of them. Going to be side by side coming in, putting off the exit for that 7th place runner of Fisher Motorsports. Not going to be able to get quite as good of a run coming out of the kink. Just going to have to kind of regroup. GTP leaders are also fighting through lap traffic coming back on the lead, or onto the main straightaway. I mean, just everywhere you look, it's GTPs, it's LMP2s coming through the slower GT traffic. It's honestly a little, 2 wheels into the dirt, skating it across the exit the entire way. Good job hanging on to that, to be honest.
And Firestorm Motorsport did the same thing.
Was it Rising Panda the first time, and now Firestorm just trying to do their best impression a couple seconds later.
Battle for 4th remains, but Espadina starting to break away with this battle. Right now, LMP2 is broken apart for the most part. The lone fight in LMP2 right now is for 7th between Vulture Motorsports and Go-In Racing. No surprises there. They said 0.4 of a second separated for the time being, and right now, Vulture Motorsports, I think they're doing a good job in their opening round in the LMP2 field for Vulture. They're really proving that they've got what it takes to stay off the bottom steps here.
Yeah, they're not having a bad initial race, right? Their first race in the series for their LMP2 entry. Doing pretty good up in the 7th place spot. Not really making any mistakes in the early going. Keeping themselves in this thing. Just giving them a chance coming to the end. Back onto the front straightaway. Vulture Motorsports still hanging on. Go-In Racing trying to run them down. That's your points leader in the LMP2 field. Had an off week in Watkins Glen. Got caught up in a couple incidents. Lost a good chunk of points. They recovered for a decent 6th or 7th place finish, I believe. But at the end of the day, a lot worse than what we've become accustomed to seeing from Go-In Racing. They're trying to put themselves back up one more position. Go into the inside, not able to find it. He had an off-track excursion earlier in the race. That's why he's back down to the 8th place spot as it is. But luckily, a little bit of damage mitigation compared to the Watkins Glen incident that we saw them get in.
Yeah, that really was the mother of all incidents, wasn't it? And a few days after, we did get confirmation that was the biggest crash in VSCA's entire league history, which that's impressive. I think the official car count, it was either 23 or 25. It was somewhere around there, which is why we see everybody kind of situated where things are right now. So you got battles going on for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Vincent Oliveira, Marco Pereira. They're both going at it for the 6th spot in GT Pro. And this is 2 Porsches trying to gang up on their BMW brethren.
Kinetic Racing trying to take the spot, trying to hang on from RPM at the same time. Stuck in a little bit of a sandwich here. You never know exactly what you want to do, what you need to do to hang on to your spot while also trying to pick up a spot. You know, if you make the wrong move, you go back a place rather than going forward a place.
That was a choice.
That was, I probably wouldn't pull back across the nose of a GTP, but luckily it worked out.
I guess. That was,
I mean, it could have been worse.
So that was a choice for sure for that move. That's all I'm going to leave that one at.
Nobody died, so we're okay.
Yeah.
For now.
So this battle is going to continue on in GTM. Just behind them, Shreyas Venkatarajan for Vulture Motorsports at the GTM entry for the 016, trying to battle it out with Taylor Parsons for Screeching Moose Motorsports. Man, what is it with SMM? I mean, they always seem to have not a solid qualifying effort, but they just find themselves at the head of the field.
GTP race lead is going to be changing hands down the front straightaway. The 15 got a bad run coming out of the final corner, and Pedro Vargas is looking to the inside. He's got the speed, and he's got the position. He's going to clear him before we even get down to turn 1. And that was just a mistake from the 15 coming out of the final corner. Just dipped 2 wheels into the grass. Got that thing slowed up, and we're seeing one of the GTP cars coming down pit road.
2 of them.
Only 28 minutes into this thing. Is this the new fuel limit coming into play here?
We'll have to see. Team Hardcore Fisher Motorsports both into pit road. While all this was going on, there was a pass for 3rd in your LMP2 field. Fisher Motorsports got a little unsettled on the curve. Rising Panda Racing said, Tri-State Racing said, I'll take that. Thank you very much. Full service, it looks like, for Hardcore and Fisher.
I didn't expect even with the fuel limitations, I didn't expect to be seeing them come down 28 minutes in. I'm patiently waiting to see what the leaders do, whether they come in this lap or they just make it up one more lap, or was this a little bit earlier of a pit stop, maybe a little bit of a strategy play, trying to set themselves up nicely for the rest of this thing. And I think Bravo Snow Shatton might have just had a crash somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Gabriel Peckley was battling with Ricardo Santos, and now suddenly way behind. They were going 3 wide with LMP2 and GTM traffic on the approach to turn 5. Oh, too much speed. Oh, yeah, way too much speed. Just locked the rears.
Easy mistake to do, I can tell you that. Those faster cars, man, if you just get on the brake a little bit too heavy, there's just no safe in it. It's just so strange. You're offline a little bit in a weird position. If you just drive in a little bit too deep, you're really asking for the worst. Luckily there, a lot of runoff there for Bravo Snow Shatton, so that 50 is going to be able to stay in this thing and not, completely put themselves out. But Espadina from 4th in the GTPs, he's coming down pit road.
So another one of the GTPs are coming down pit road, so pit window does look to be open. Jason Burney is in as well. So the MSP number 3 entry is in. Ricardo Santos for DS Racing is in. Pit road looks like it's about to get to be quite the busy place. We had 8 past Carl Felber getting around Mark Romaninski. This was a little bit further down the field. This was for 13th in your GTM field, and that is, of course, the full send Razor machine that is still very much a wounded warrior. But they're showing they still have some speed as they fight their, oh boy, nearly actually getting turned by Dangler Performance there.
A lot of tight racing, and it's still tight up at the front of the GTP field. The front two for the GTP cars have not let each other get away. They have changed this lead back and forth coming through the carousel. You got to expect that they're going to be coming down pit road relatively soon. What are we looking at for the pit road sequence for these two? Do you take the tires? Do you just take the gas? We're seeing most of these GTP cars taking tires as well. So I assume it's going to be relatively straightforward, but you never know whenever we could see one jump the other. And I got to be thinking that they're coming down pit road this time with how much or how early all the other GTP cars have come down pit road. We have to watch them coming out of the final corner. Do they make that peel over to the right side of the racetrack? Looks like both of them are going to be coming down.
Yep. And HAC Racing, Christophe DeMay is just behind. Whoa, boy. Talk about attacking the pit line for Fogel. Nearly ran into the back of Vargas on pit entry.
Well, how about DeMay getting up to the back of him? I mean, he's turned this into a 3-car battle for the lead whenever they come out of pit road.
Take a look at Fogel's entry here right behind Pedro Vargas.
I think it's more that Vargas entered way too slowly. If you look at Christopher DeMay, his pit entry, he caught up to both these guys by a second.
Right behind. And right to the gearbox.
That's perfect. He's completely cut that gap down. Coming out of, or I'm paying attention to see them come out of pit road. You're gonna have to see which one comes out first. They're all under a blanket. You never know which one's gonna get let down first and get out of pit road ahead of the other two. I don't know if Composite Performance took tires, though.
Gabriel Peckley, Bravo Snow Shatton is so far one of the lone GTPs that is not pitted, and Vargas first in, first out. And a driver change for Composite Performance. They're going to put Andrew Parker in the car, and Matthew Rutten goes into the car for HAC Racing. Trouble for Jason Ehrenberg. One of the LMP2 runners has had an off in the Vulture Motorsports machine, and all of a sudden, their day looking like it's going up in smoke. And oh boy, John Pascal Arnold for the GS Racing Esports Audi having problems.
Yeah, there's a couple guys that have had issues over the last 30 seconds or so. Arnold just went straight into the dirt coming through turn 1. I don't really know the reasoning behind it. But looking at the replay coming down to Canada corner for a couple of these guys, so just too heavy on the brakes once again.
Look at the Fisher Motorsports Porsche there, locking it down. Did a good job to avoid contact there. And this is the Audi. I mean, he was definitely going fast enough to make the corner. Yeah, I don't know. Or slow enough to make the corner, I should say.
Oh man, I'm watching Matthew Routon, who's gotten in the car for Hack Racing. He left pit road right on the gearbox of the front two. And he's dropped off 2.5 seconds to second and 4 seconds to third. So Matthew has not had a good outlap.
Might not be fully comfortable with that car and how it's situated yet. We'll keep tabs on him, see what his progress will look like as this race continues. Gabriel Peckley is into pit road, and that should cycle all of these GTPs through and back to the race lead. Battle on. This is for fourth in GT Pro. Vince Olivier looking to get around Neil Middleton. And Kinetic Racing going to break around Torque Freak Racing down to the Canada corner.
Yeah, a lot of these guys fighting hard for the fourth place, or sorry, for the fourth place spot. Olivier hanging on to it for now, coming down to the final corner. But it's just a lot of GT pros lined up, nose to tail, coming back to the start-finish line. I mean, everybody from fourth back to eighth is included in this battle pack. They're all within 2 seconds of each other.
Kinetic Racing, the one that's pulling out the biggest gap so far with Torque Freak Racing in the mix. And all of this, they have just gotten around a few drivers that are down and into pit road as well. North Sim Racing leads the way with Piero Leone out in front. While everyone else a little ways behind is still doing a good job of fighting it out for these battles in of themselves. And this is all staying close while you've got a lot of prototype traffic trying to lap themselves. But right now it is a busy place on pit road for the GTs.
Yeah, we're starting to get to the end of the fuel life for a lot of the GT cars. A handful of the GT pros coming down. A lot of the GTMs seem to be coming in this time, getting their service done. We see the Screeching Moose Motorsports number 5 coming out. That's Parsons behind the wheel of the number 5. A couple other guys starting to make their way out of their pit stall as well. The 2 digital chicane cars up at the front of the field for the GTAM still have not pitted. They're staying out one more lap compared to what looks to be most of their competitors. Can't believe they can make it an extra lap with the pace that they've been running. They've been consistently quicker than every single one of their GTAM competitors, and yet they can make it another lap on gas.
I don't believe it. They know what it takes to get these cars up in victory lane. They've been trying to do that all season long. Again, it's usually just stuff that is not even of their own doing that falls their way to find themselves down and out of the fight. Tyler Campbell from Grissom Motorsports, 2 laps down at the GTP field. He is battling his way for overall position through your GT field right now. He's now up to 27th overall, and he just made that pass, bumping Neil Middleton down to 28th overall. At this point, though, he has got to hope for a safety car so we can get one of those laps back.
Yeah, and over the course of a 2-hour and 40-minute race, you expect at least one, right? But it's not a guarantee. So it's a tough call on whether you're going to get it or not. You know, if you get that early incident or the early disconnect, you just may never get it back in these sprint races, man. And it's heartbreaking. It's tough on the points, but you just got to hope and pray that over the course of the next 2 hours or so that you either get that yellow flag or there's a lot of attrition within your class.
Michael Simpson for Tri-State Racing is in, so is Jason Ehrenberg from Ultra Motorsports. Both of those drivers are in, and whoa, boy, look at the right front of that Vulture car. How long has that been there?
Oh,
it's all sorts of dented in.
Ultra Motorsports, LMP2, let's go back. This is the 216. Oh, man. Coming down to Canada corner.
Ah, okay. So that was the incident. That was the incident we saw earlier then.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't realize it had done that much damage.
He, he got into the back of Goin. Maybe he didn't. He slid the brakes, but then he tapped ever so slightly a GTP car on the inside as he was spinning, and it destroyed the right front.
Well,
it was not heavy contact. I'm kind of shocked. I mean, these things are fragile, man. I've gotten into the GT racing, the multi-class racing the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I couldn't tell you how many times my car has died from the smallest of contact. So I know these guys struggle with that a lot. You end up getting a lot of damage that you have to repair. Unfortunately for these guys, that yellow flag hasn't come out yet, and they're not going to be able to do it under yellow. Oh, tight racing between the second and third place runners and LMP2. Rising Panda with a late dive down to the inside. They're going to take that spot.
I don't think that was all that late. I feel like Rising Panda was a little pinched in there.
I mean, he definitely wasn't side by side in the braking zone, but he just broke later, broke deeper, and he met the apex. I would say it was late, but it's not too late if you're going to still meet the apex and not push him out too wide.
To be fair, they didn't make
That was a good
contact.
move. Yeah, it was a good move. It was late, but it wasn't too late.
Nicholas going racing takes it into pit road. I think that was the pass of the net race lead. Both digital chicane cars are in.
What a move, man. That was impressive.
And here comes a huge chunk of the GT Pros.
Everybody from second on back, it looks like in the GT Pros, that entire battle that we were talking about, second through fifth, all coming down pit road, all line astern. Nothing between these guys. I love seeing the competitiveness of the GT Pro field here from about second on back. I mean, everybody is just on top of each other. That 992, he pitted a couple laps ago. Teixeira, I think that they're the class of the field, but everybody else is just stacked up on top of each other in the GT Pros.
For the 555, they're going to put Carlos Miguel Duarte into the DS Racing Esports Team Ferrari. Orvech and Lowe remain in the cars in their respective digital chicane entries. So not seeing too many changes in the way of driver lineups on this pit stop. A few drivers going for driver swaps, but for most of the teams, they opted to keep their starting drivers in the cars for another stint. Now this will be interesting coming out of pit road. They're side by side, and pit exit ain't exactly 2 lanes wide here.
No, there's not much room, and then even if you're wide, you gotta get it single filed out to right there, right? Because you've got to be on the inside where that blue line is. You got to be on the inside of the yellow line to cross the blue line and not get a penalty. And there's literally only room for one car, so you've got to get that sorted out. You cannot be side by side coming out of there, or you're gonna get a black flag.
Kind of a game of chicken on that one, and it looks like Neil Middleton and the Torque Creek Racing Porsche won out.
Yeah, I feel like if you're on the outside and you don't have clear overlap, as in like your nose is not in front of their nose, you just have to back out. You've got to give that spot up, or you're going to get pushed out on exit. I feel like that's kind of the danger spot, but they all come out line of stern, third through 6, all about the same distance apart as they were whenever they came in.
Well, we are exactly 40 minutes deep into this race, so going to take a real quick chance here to give a shout out to the folks that helped keep the lights on here for the VSA Sports Car Championship, bringing you races week in, week out. This race tonight brought to you by Twin Bush USA, your expert for automotive workshop equipment, located in North Las Vegas, Nevada. Visit them today or find them online at www.twinbush.com. As well as that, today's race in particular brought to you by Joel Real Timing. JRT aims to be a tool to help drivers to manage their races by displaying different information that can be customized. It can display several types of data like timing, track maps, dashboards, or a visual spotter as an overlay or on an external display. There's also an advanced fuel calculator with many options that allow the drivers to customize their refueling. JRT listens to user feedback to constantly improve. JRT and Twin Bush sponsoring the VSA Sports Car Championship. Of course, this is the Joel's Real Timing Summer Sprint. We are 40 minutes deep into racing action here this afternoon. And the battles are still going nowhere, including the fight for the lead in GTM. But I don't feel like this is really a battle right now. It looks like the digital chicane cars, they're more focused on working together.
Yeah, I don't think that they're fighting whatsoever. Even if the 93 got up to the back of Orvex, I don't think that they would really be fighting too hard. I think the only way he passes them is because
Vision 1 Motorsports has just dropped out.
Oh, no.
That's your third place LMP2 runner. And they are not coming back.
My word. The disconnects, man. The disconnects have been bad.
And here we see the battle for second. Composite and HAC going at it right now. Division 1 does pop back in right at the last second, but these guys side by side, they're about 3 corners. And at the end of the day, Parker hangs on.
This is what is surprising to me. Coming down pit road, all 3 of the GTP leaders were on top of each other, right? We saw Hack Racing close up the gap as we watched the replay of them go side by side. Hack Racing closed up the gap to the front 2. These 2 that you see battling, Composite and Hack Racing, they're the 2 that changed drivers. The leader in NGC did not. Pedro Vargas still behind the wheel of that thing. These 2 that changed drivers, they've lost 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Is it taking them that long to get acclimated to the car, or are they just that much slower than Vargas?
I think it's just car acclimation. That, and of course, you have a lot of traffic you're dealing with where these guys are at right about now. I would not be surprised if we saw NGC dropping off on pace a little bit once they get their driver to the car. That does tend to happen, and a position swap for the digital chicane cars. Kyle O goes around to get around Matthew Orovech and put Kyle O, the number 93 entry, into the race lead of GTM.
I really didn't expect to see these guys challenging each other, but I guess if the opportunity presents itself, you might as well take it. And they're still staying out on the racetrack, by the way. They have not come down pit road.
Yes, they have.
Yes, they have. I am stupid.
They came down they came down about 4 laps ago.
Yeah. Well, it was 2 laps ago, but yeah, it was.
I mean, they haven't come down for a second time.
I said it, and then I looked at my my overlay, and it said stint 2 laps. I was like, okay, well, that was literally 4 minutes ago.
Yeah. We even talked about it.
I'm gonna say it was. No. Don't tell me that. I'm gonna tell myself it was during the Tony Bush announcement, and that I was disconnected during the ad read. Even though that's false information, we're gonna go with it.
One hour, 55 minutes remain. We are almost 1 hour deep into this 2 hour and 40-minute sprint race. The racing's been good this afternoon, right? Minimal incidents. The few incidents we have had really have not been bad. Lots of great racing.
Well, you just said we've had minimal incidents, so I'm expecting a big 10-car pileup any moment.
Well, we're overdue for a safety car anyway.
Are we? I mean, it's only been 50 minutes.
Usually we've gotten one by now.
Well, that's a good point.
Remember 12 Hours of Sebring? We got one before the GTP guys had even caught the GT field.
Well, yeah, but there was a good, 3 or 4 hour stretch in the middle of that race where we didn't see one?
I think almost 5.
Oh.
It was nearly half the race we went without one.
Oh.
And that was right around when all that rain started to fall, which was just glorious.
Oh, man. I wish we had rain here tonight. Oh my gosh, we have rain here tonight.
Oh no.
I'm looking at the forecast. It's not going to get super heavy. I'm looking at 30% chance.
Okay,
but
so
the last hour will be sprinkles.
And that's 30% chance of sprinkles, or?
Well, I mean, like, whenever I see 30% on the iRacing service, I think that means you're probably getting rain, but it's going to be light, is the way I kind of look at that. And I do see some blue popping up on my radar. So I don't think it's going to be heavy enough to bring these guys down pit road to put on wet tires, but you could start seeing some loss of grip through some of these corners and see a lot more mistakes with the dry tires being on a wet racetrack, especially if we start seeing some puddling up on some of these apexes. Looking at the rain, it looks like it's going to be starting in about half an hour.
I love how you say that, and all of the onboards we're showing so far, there's not a lot of clouds in the sky at all.
No.
It's mostly blue, so this is definitely coming in later into the game. But I mean, right now,
it's coming from the direction of the carousel too. So you come out of that.
Okay, so it's probably might be obscured by trees.
Exactly. So take a left out of that left-hander coming to the carousel, and if you look up right there on the onboard, you might be able to see some cloud cover coming.
We need to stop before we become like Liberty Media and just make up the existence of rain.
I'm not making it up. I'm looking at it. It says overcast, 30%. So
it's not guaranteed though. It's not a guarantee.
But it's a possibility, and that could possibly throw a loop or throw a wrench into the strategy play, throw a wrench into this race as a whole. You never know.
Roy Vermeer and Ronald Grosch currently in the battle for 7th place in GTM. A lot of the fights started to break up throughout the course of this field. Not too much has been closing in, as we very much have settled, I think, into the long haul rhythm of this race with not too much of note. You see the battle for 5th in GTP, getting around some LMP2 traffic.
Doesn't it look pretty dark back there a little bit? I see some fogginess.
Darker clouds. I think it's more the heat haze. Well, maybe a little bit over there. I can see what you mean.
To the left a little bit. That's where it was coming from. Yeah. So we'll see. In about half an hour, we might see some sprinkles on the windshield and see some,
we'll double check
some slippery conditions.
Right now, biggest battle on the racetrack for 3rd in GT Pro. Torquay Racing World of Sim Racing team going at a quarter of a second between them in the fight for 3rd.
Yeah, I don't think that GT Pro battle for third is going to be settled anytime soon. We've seen the same 4 cars tucked under each other's bumpers from the drop of the green flag. I mean, Torque Freak, World of Sim Racing, GSE, and Kinetic Racing all the exact same speed as each other. Nobody really able to build a gap over the others, and nobody's really fallen too far behind either. So that last step of the podium might be a place of contention, heavily contested too, with there being 4 guys all fighting for it.
Rising Panda Racing's Remy Loge takes that machine down into pit road, so that'll put Dennis Denisio for JRT Racing Esports into the LMP2 race lead. For Rising Panda, this is their second pit stop of the afternoon. Remember, they had pitted once pretty early in this race, and so they are off cycle on the pit strategy. There you see World of Sim Racing to the inside of Torque Freak, and the GSC Audi trying to make a move as well to bump Torque Freak down too.
Starting to switch positions between these couple of guys here. GSE just squeaking through the 21 in 4th, trying to hang on now as Torque Freaks trying to get back on the front foot. Not able to do anything coming down to the left-hander. They're all going to single file back out. A couple laps ago, Grizzly Motorsports had a little bit of an issue coming out of the King. Just about got destroyed by a GTP car that wasn't, or sorry, a GT car that wasn't quite sure where they wanted to go as Grizzly was trying to get by. So that King is still proven to be a point of contention. All these guys going through it right now. Luckily for them, no traffic, no issues. And finally, we're seeing somebody start to spread out a gap. That 3rd place runner, World of Sim Racing team, they got the fighting right behind them, and he stretched that gap up to a 2nd.
Thing is, the Audi's broken clear pretty effectively as well, so can we see Jean-Pascal Arnold in fact try to close the gap in? He's 6/10 up from Neil Middleton. Middleton right now has got to worry a lot more about Aiden Campbell right behind him. And Arnold's pulled it away from this fight pretty consistently as well.
Yeah, I like how basically a lap after I was talking about how this is going to come down to the wire because these 4 seem to be the exact same speed. All of a sudden, World of Sim Racing team picks it up, goes a second, 1.2 seconds ahead, and then the 5th place car, or the 4th place car also starts stretching up the gap over 5th and 6th. So, classic.
That was an interesting moment. AJC Racing having a huge bobble, trying to avoid running into the back of Composite Performance going through the final few corners. But then when Composite Performance gets checked up by the Real Pixel Motorsport Lamborghini, they're able to start to reel this gap right back in. So they are hauling right now out towards turn number 1. Garrett Spence for Tri-State Racing is in for their 2nd stop of the afternoon. So can we see the pit window for the LMP2s opening up here before too long?
Very well could. Nolan, we do have somebody waiting to give us a little chit-chat. It looks like it's Thomas Fisher of the 216. Would you like to talk to him?
You know what, why not?
The initial entry for the Vulture Motorsports LMP2?
Why not? We'll bring in Thomas Fisher here for the Vulture Motorsports LMP2 machine. For this team, it is it was looking like a strong start, and unfortunately it has not quite gone according to plan. Thomas, welcome to the broadcast booth on Green Flag TV, and kind of walk us through the race so far, and well, what's happened to find yourselves where you're running at right now?
Yeah, no, so it's honestly, the race hasn't, other than the small spin that I saw you guys pick up on the broadcast heading down to Canada Corner, the race has actually been going pretty much to plan. Nothing's really gone off, shall we say. We knew that we were going to struggle with pace a little bit at the start. So really the goal has just been, to keep clean. And then come the first round of pit stops, we wanted to sort of build an offset to the other cars, which seems to be working out now. We took tires, whereas a lot of the other cars didn't take tires, and now you're starting to see the 46 and the 321 there have just come in for tires because the left sides just aren't lasting around here right now.
You mentioned, of course, the left side tires not lasted at all. Does that impact how you have to drive this car over the course of the stint, considering your guys' stints do tend to be quite a bit shorter than a majority of that of the rest of the field?
Honestly, throughout our practice and warm up and everything else, we tried various things to try and save the left side tires, which is one of the reasons why we're running maybe a little bit off the pace. We're running with higher downforce, it appears, in other cars, to try and preserve those left sides a little bit more. And but it's the difference is it's not enough to warrant us being able to go on for another stint on these sets of tires, but it improves the pace towards the end of the stint on the tires. So right now, Jason's just focusing on hitting his marks and everything else, and getting us the changeover point, and hopefully, as we've just found out, hopefully get us to the weather. And then once the weather hits, the plan is for me to jump in the car, and then I'll try and push on from there.
Overall, you entered this Vulture Motorsports entry for LMP2 at least a bit late into the season, round 7 of 10. What's going to be the game plan throughout the rest of 2024, and will we see it in competition fully in 2025?
Yeah, so honestly, the plan for the remainder of this season is just to try and get the team as a whole up to speed. This is not my first rodeo in LMP2s and VSCA. We were endurance champions, and then we lost both other championships on countback in the first series, and then I was racing in GTP in the second series. So the goal now is just these guys wanted to race in first GT Pro, and then we were looking at an LMP2 entry, and I wasn't originally going to be involved, and then I got asked to come in and help a little bit for the LMP2 entry. So that's the main goal towards the end of the series. Just build up the experience and the camaraderie in the team, make it sure that we're gelling together as a team before putting on a full-on effort in 2025.
Well, you mentioned, apart from that one incident early on, things are still going to plan. We'll hope that will continue for you guys. So far, a decent outing. We'll see where you'll be finishing in about an hour and 45 minutes.
Yep, cheers, thanks very much.
Thomas Fisher for Vulture Motorsports and the LMP2 crew. Currently, they run 10th out of 11 in this field, right? So we'll see how they're going to pan out throughout the duration of this race. You saw, while we were talking to Thomas Fisher there, the pass for the GT Pro race lead. And this came from Jeremy Littleton making the move, and this was down for the other Vulture Motorsports car into turn 5.
I really thought that the GT Pro field was going to be relatively settled. That 992 just looked like he had the speed, had the gap. But the 116's come on strong, taking the race lead, running them down. That 116 is moving, and not only did they take the lead, they've stretched that gap out to almost 3 seconds.
Yeah, that they have. It's been a solid run so far for DS Race Esports team, and of course Jeremy Littleton with the other Vulture car. While one may be a little bit down and out, these other guys are doing a good job so far. Rain DeBoer possibly having a blink out there. It shows that he crashed, but he's very much up to speed. So that does give you a good indication that he blinked out for an extended period of time. Aiden Campbell, though, did go off track for the Kinetic Racing Machine. Now, was that with contact for composite performance?
I've been watching that for the last minute, kind of dissecting it. Andrew Parker kind of turned in as if there wasn't a car there.
Ooh, no kidding.
There was really nothing that Kinetic Racing could do on that one, just on the apex, and well, you got Dorbang.
And then Pedro Vargas just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:48.52. And that is the fastest lap out of anybody so far today. So NGC continuing to pull out that lead at the head of this field, which could be good news to give their second driver time to acclimate to the race car once it's time for their stint. And that should be coming up before too long.
Yeah, the pit stop started, what, around 2 hours and 10 minutes to go. That was 30 minutes into the race. So you got to think pit stops are probably going to be, they probably started, excuse me, maybe at the 2:05 mark. So we might be looking at another 5 or 10 minutes before we come down pit road, but we are getting very, very close to that point. And I'm going to check the weather radar one more time, give a little bit more of an idea. Looks like we are about 20 minutes away from some weather. I'm seeing it getting bigger on my radar. And there's a little bit of light green behind that blue, so it might get a little heavy. Still, I don't think it's going to be heavy enough for rain tires. We're looking at Gross getting passed by Cervoni in the GTAM. That's going to be for your 8th place spot, coming out of turn number 3.
So the battle for 8th going to continue on. 1 hour and 42 minutes are left in this one. Tell you what, let's take a ride on board here with Ronald Gross for a little while as he continues to battle it out with Julia Cervoni just up the road, and we'll take you for a lap or two around the Road America circuit while we give our voices to rest. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, boy, talk about timing. The second we leave is when it all starts to kick off. We'll go for a little stroll down memory lane. Rain DeBoer had this little incident for the Scour's SS Racing machine. And, well, not so much for the incident as it was a scare for the field as he blinks out of existence. What did happen, though, was Dennis Denisio had an off on the racetrack, and this was, of course, for LMP2, and this is what cost him the race lead. Looped it out of the final corner, caught too much curb. For an Eigner went off the road, and this is one of the GT Pros, caught too much grass and way off into the final corner. And then Firestorm Motorsports, just a few moments ago, having this off in the carousel. Whoa, and he got tipped by the leader.
It was a weird situation. It looked like the 29 was widening himself out for the corner, looking like he was going to take more of an outside line, seeing the GTP come through, and I think it just caught off the race leader. Kind of a weird moment between the two of them. Kind of hard to call it for sure, but we're starting to see those GTP guys. They're starting to come down pit road.
Yeah, they sure are. A lot of the GTP runners down and into pit road now. Among those is Selena Ward for Trading Paints Racing. And just behind them, you see Rico Kohlmeyer for Fisher Motorsports. So a new driver into the Fisher Motorsports number 14 entry. Down at the tail end of the field. Again, for the most part, a lot of the battles on the racetrack started to break apart. Both Tri-State Racing cars go third and fourth, with Going Racing in fifth. Even though it looks like some of the field is breaking apart, we're not going to cut away because evidently, whenever we do that, everything kicks off. So we're going to stay with this with just over an hour and a half to go.
Yeah, we tend to get very unlucky. It was nice whenever we go to the onboard of Ronald Gross. As soon as we go to the onboard of Ronald Gross, that LMP2 leader decided that he was going to put his left side tires off in the grass. I think he was watching the stream and planned it.
Sam Vaughn, Michael Simpson, Nicholas Goen all in a line. This is the battle for third, a growing battle for third. Started to close up the gap here just a little bit. Further behind, Ryan Ware making the pass on Rising Panda, on VRG Sports' Andy Banfield. So Banfield going to be dropping down to 8th. I believe VRG in their first start of the season as well. Further up the grid, Sam Vaughn trying to hang on against the sister car and Going Racing for third.
I'm interested to see the strategy for the LMP2 field. A couple guys looking at Rising Panda Racing, Tri-State Racing all the way at the back. They kind of split this last stint in a strange way. Rising Panda's been 9 laps since they've been on pit road. Tri-State Racing's been 7. The rest of the LMP2 field, 17, 17, 17, 15, 14. So a couple different strategies for the LMP2 field, and they might be looking at that weather radar, seeing that rain coming, and strategizing about when they are going to put on the wet tires and trying to time it perfect. The only problem is, me looking at the radar, I don't think it's going to be heavy enough to actually make the rain tires worth it. I think it's going to be heavy enough to cause some nervy moments on the slicks, but not enough to kind of make it where you have to come down and put wets. I think the slicks will be faster, just you'll be more likely to make a mistake.
Now, you have a radar. I have to go on visual cues. So you'll forgive me when I look at all of the sun on the racetrack, and I'm a little bit skeptical of your claims for rain in half an hour.
well, check out somebody coming out of the final corner, and as they're coming over the hill, tell me where the sun's at coming over the hill. All right, you're not going to see any sun. So obviously you see it because you're looking. This is not where the rain's coming from. The rain's coming from the other direction. We take that hard 90-degree right-hander. And I don't see any sun in there. I don't see any sun.
It's a pretty good indicator.
I mean, there's a little hole in there, but that's just so God can watch the race. That's all that little hole's for.
It looks right about how race weekends usually look at my racetrack as of late.
Poor you! I can't. I know this is off topic, but my goodness, I can't believe how unlucky you've gotten with the real life announcing for your racetrack. I mean, y'all have been rained out week in, week out.
Quite literally, it will only rain around the 3 days we have drag racing on the weekend. And only those 3 days. And guess what? This weekend, sunny for Thursday, sunny for Friday, sunny for Saturday. Guess what? Rain on Sunday. That's the forecast right now. It is like clockwork. It is insane. And as I started to say that, a lot of the tracks started to disappear, at least on the front straightaway with some of that cloud cover. Well,
It's coming.
We're still relatively clear in the middle portion of the racetrack, where this battle for second is now underway.
15 minutes, buddy. 15 minutes until we get our first precipitation chance. And it looked like it was going to stay pretty light, but the percentage has gone higher. It was stuck around the 30% all the way until the end of the session, even through it. It's climbed up to 50 as the radar started filling up, and I'm starting to see some dark green.
To be fair, you have to look at the colors on that radar for that, because the chance of rain, that's just how likely that you're going to get any rain at all. That could, like, even if it's at 100% chance, that could be torrential downpour, or it could be a light sprinkle. It could be both.
While I agree, for the most part on iRacing that I've seen so far, typically the percent chance does line up with intensity. Typically, it's normally relatively close. So I'm erring on the side. Oh, is that going?
Yeah, Nicholas going around. So the points leader for LMP2 spins it out. I think that's around turn 14.
We've got to watch an onboard of Andrew Parker getting around that. That was fantastic from Parker in the composite performance number 15. Could have been a race ender from him, or for him running second in the GTP field, but he did a hell of a job getting by.
Some momentary technical problems there. Almost couldn't access our cameras anymore, but take a look back to Nicholas going. Again, that's a weird one. Couldn't quite get a good angle on what happened there. And, well, still nothing too secure. Try this one, maybe. There we go. Got into the side of the Ferrari, it looked like, maybe?
I couldn't tell if they actually made contact or if it was just that he was diving down there and maybe wheel hopped a little bit. I couldn't quite tell.
This is with Parker.
This might give us a better angle.
Hey,
we're gonna see exactly.
Oh
my goodness!
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right?
Oh, I'm seeing dark green, buddy. We're seeing dark green on the weather radar. And that's going to be showing up. Let me do some quick maths in my head. That's going to be showing up with about 45 minutes left in the session. So I'm starting to believe the rain tires are actually going to be put on at the end of this thing.
Well, you know what they say, rain's always a good equalizer, so we'll see how that one's going to pan out. We've got Eric Soy, the digital chicane Ferrari, the Vulture Motorsports Ferrari, is into pit road. welcome back to Green Flag TV. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We and a good chunk of the field were just victims of a mass disconnect from the iRacing service, and among those is the 93 digital chicane entry, who are currently down and out. You see the number 80 entry of Matthew Orovech into pit road. Austin, you were lucky enough to stay in the session, so as Ferreira goes off the track, why don't you walk us through what you saw to kind of put us into the situation and run us down what all the changes have been looking like?
Well, I really just saw my, the yellow text on the right side of my screen light up like crazy. So many disconnects all of a sudden. Luckily, the majority of the disconnects were from drivers that were spectating their cars. They were not actually behind the wheel, but there were 3, 4, 5 teams that have been caught out. Composite Performance, they were running second in the GTP field. They are down and out. Andrew Parker, he got disconnected. Looking through the rest of the GTP, Trading Paints Racing Black, I believe Selena Ward was behind the wheel of that thing. That thing got disconnected. Scours GT 048 in the LMP2, they got disconnected. And then probably the biggest of all, the race leader in the GTM category, the car that has not caught a break all season. They're down in 7th in the championship, even though they have had championship speed. That digital chicane, number 93, has been dropped from the session, and now they are well back in the pack. They're running up in the lead. Now they're back to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th in the GTM category. I mean, I've never seen a team more snake-bitten than the 93.
Like you said, the good news is a lot of the folks that got disconnected were those that were already out of the car. The unfortunate factor of that is we were among those. So that doesn't exactly go to plan, but hey, these things happen. Marco Pereira, Jean-Pascal Arnold, World of Sim Racing and GSC Racing Esports are both down into the pit road. Nicholas Goen, for going racing, is in the pit road. And putting in a new driver for the WOSR BMW, Andre Quintana is going to be into the car.
And we're going to start seeing our first sprinkles within the next 5 minutes, and it's just going to keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier. You're going to see about 10 minutes of light rain, and then we are getting into some dark green that, honestly, I believe could turn into some yellow. It is that dark, so I'm definitely expecting rain tires at this point. I do think our last pit stop is going to be to put wet tires on. Just gonna have to wait and see as the radar continues to grow. We don't get a huge radar to look at. It's only a handful of miles down to the southwest that I'm really able to see the weather come in and attack this race course. But it is looking like we're going to be seeing a wet tire changeover at some point, and this is going to turn into a who's the best in the wet style of race. And I got to point out, we haven't seen that yellow flag fly yet. It very well could fly right before the heavy stuff gets here and could pack this field all back up on top of each other.
Would be the first time it's happened, but I think it would be the first time during the weather that it would have happened. So this, again, could be quite interesting. We are right at the halfway mark. So far, like you mentioned, still without a yellow flag to speak of on the racetrack. It does show that this race, though, is getting set to kick off into complete overdrive. There you see Carlos Miguel Duarte for DS Racing Esports team in their Ferrari entry. And they have got, I believe, that is Lucas Ferrer in the Delta Racing BMW just behind them.
Racing hard towards the front of the GTM field. Those guys are running for the 3rd place spot. Up towards the GTP, or up at the front of the GTP field. 4th place, that's Fisher Motorsport. But they've got a tight battle here shaping up with World of Sim Racing right behind them. Martinez trying to run down that number 4. Down the long chute here. Oh, I was so nervous that was another, we were about to have another massive disconnect, seeing him disappear from my screen like that. But it was just him, but a Vulture Motorsports entry. That's Venkataraju off at the back of the GTM field. Coming down to the turn, okay, and that's a monitor failure?
Or a VR failure, one of the two, but you can tell with how much he was turning that car to the right, trying to keep it off of the racetrack, which is a good call. So yeah, that That has to be a Hardman family of some sort. But a good chunk of the GT field is into pit road. And we do have now standing by Kyle Lowe down in the waiting room. What do you think, Austin? Do you want to take this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was the one that just got disconnected from the Digital Chicane 93. I'd love to talk to him.
We'll bring Kyle Lowe for the Digital Chicane number 93 into the broadcast booth. And Austin, take it away.
Kyle, I was talking about how the 93 has been the most snake-bit team on the entire grid all season long, and, well, it's happened again. I can't even imagine what you guys are talking about back in your team chat. I mean, can you give us a little bit of insight? Just how frustrating is this? It just seems like time and time again, something goes wrong that is just out of your control.
Yeah, it's a real shame. You know, we got disconnected randomly out of nowhere, and you know, Ryan was watching the rest of the folks in the lobby too, and it seems like a lot of people got a spike of a disconnect. So it just so happened to happen to me while I'm out on track, which is really unfortunate. But you know, our pace is really good. I think we still have a shot, and we're just gonna see what we can do from here. It seems like the forecast is saying there's a good chance of rain later on, so that should make things super interesting for us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this plays out. It's not the end of the world just yet.
Yeah, I think the rain is going to hit before we're even done with this interview. I think we're going to start seeing sprinkles out on the camera in just a matter of moments. But I mean, you know, going for the rest of this race, you got lucky. I was looking back. I say lucky, obviously very unlucky, but you got somewhat lucky about where it happened on the racetrack, right? I believe y'all were coming out of turn 3, so the tow was not ridiculously long as if it would have been if y'all were coming out of the kink or the carousel. So you're only 50 seconds back from your teammate, and y'all were up in the race lead not too long ago. So, you know, what are you hoping for the rest of this race? What's the ideal scenario for that 93 to find themselves back up towards the front and able to overcome this this ridiculous challenge that has been placed at your feet?
Yeah, it's certainly an uphill battle. We're really hoping for the weather to play a huge factor in our favor. We did a lot of practice in the rain both leading up to this event, expecting this kind of forecast to happen. So I'm pretty confident in our pace in the wet. We did some of the official practice in the wet as well, and we were really competitive. And it's really all about keeping it on track, not making any mistakes, and capitalizing on the misfortunes of others, as much as I hate to say that. But that's the reality of the sport. Our leader capitalized on our misfortune just now, so hopefully the tables will return for us.
Well, I gotta point out, it is raining. And 1 and 3, oh, what is going on down the front straightaway? What? Okay, I don't know what that smoke was. All the debris flying. I don't know what you just saw on the main broadcast, but it is starting to rain down in coming through turn 3. You're gonna be seeing it. You should already see it on your screen coming out of turn number 1. So the track is starting to get wet. We're gonna have to wait and see.
Oh yeah, the droplets are coming.
Yeah,
Get ready.
we're gonna have to wait and see if that benefits y'all. Now, looking at the radar, obviously we're just getting into very light blue stuff, but we're gonna be getting into some darker green in about 15 minutes. Is this gonna be heavy enough rain to actually change over to the wet tires, or are y'all thinking that you might try to stick it out on the dries as long as possible?
It seems like we're gonna try to stick to the plan of staying on the dries for as long as possible. But at the same time, we gotta anticipate the level of grip is obviously gonna change when the rain gets heavier. Even with the light rain constantly changing the track every lap, I do see us potentially just try to get the most out of the slick tires for now to optimize our time, and then just getting the timing just right when the track is really, really wet.
Well, Kyle, thank you for coming up to talk to us when, I mean, it's obviously a difficult time for y'all, but luckily y'all are still on the lead lap, still have a chance, and that rain might bring you an opportunity towards the end of this. So thank you for coming up and talking to us. Hopefully we can talk to y'all again at the end of this thing.
Yeah, we're having a good time, so it's not taking away too much. Thank you, guys.
That was Kyle Lowe, driver of the Digital Chicane number 93, the driver that unfortunately had the disconnect. He was leading that GTM field whenever the disconnect happened. And, well, the rain is here, Nolan, and I think it's going to start getting pretty slippery for these guys out here pretty soon.
You know what? I was skeptical, but I'm a big man. I can admit when I'm wrong. The rain's falling. It doesn't get more clear than that. Mark DeBoer of RPM Racing is off, and oh, that's a big hit that he has taken into the left side wall. And that is approaching the final corner, and he just hopped the curb way too much.
Well, and we're going to start seeing people make these types of mistakes because the first thing that goes whenever the rain comes is the painted surfaces, the curbs. That's the first spot that gets unbelievably slick that you've really got to start worrying about. And these guys have been hitting the curbs, hitting the paint, using every little bit of this racetrack to pick up time. And it's so difficult to adjust your racing groove, your racing line in the middle of this after you've been out here for an hour and 40 minutes running on the dry line. These guys are going to have to find new lines through the corners, be a little bit more careful coming out, going into the corners, not using absolutely all of the racetrack, and staying off of that paint.
You saw the Kinetic Racing number 67 making the move on Torque Freak Racing to get around him. So Torque Freak Racing currently in a good show right here, and well, it doesn't get much clearer than that. The rain is here, and it is here to stay, it looks like, as you can see looming clouds now everywhere you look around the racetrack. Oh boy. Well, you wanted the fun race, and this race has just had its whole dynamic turned on its head.
I just want to know where the first puddles are going to be popping up. What corners, what apexes are going to be terrible. I'm really looking at this heavy braking zone we're about to watch right here. This left-hander, it's at the bottom of a hill coming down to the apex. I think we're going to see a lot of standing water right there up first. So those guys are going to, that's already a tight corner. There's not a lot of room. You got to use all the racetrack too. So I really believe that heavy braking zone is going to turn out to be one of the trouble spots as the water starts puddling up.
Turn 3 as well is going to be a pretty nasty one as well, right at the edge of the front straightaway. Sam Vaughn and Thomas Marcelino. As the rain pitter-patters, the two Tri-State Racing sister cars looking like they want to have a go at each other. But an MSP Mercedes getting in the way will disrupt that fight. That will allow us to check in on how your Composite Performance is doing on their now unfortunate recovery drive.
Yeah, they just unlapped themselves, got a little lucky. They've been trying to do it, but Dan Marquez, the leader of the GTP field, has kind of gotten caught out with this rain. He's running a little bit slower. He's gotten caught up behind slower traffic. And that has allowed Hack Racing to close the gap in tremendously. Matthew Roughton has got this gap down to 2 seconds. It was about 6 a handful of laps ago. He's been flying.
You see the Fisher Motorsports Porsche 963 pulling off to the side, allowing for Roughton to keep himself up in front. Cuts around the Vulture Motorsports Ferrari, and now still has Marquez in his sights, but the gap does extend up to about 3 seconds, and, well, we're seeing some drivers going on to the wet weather tires, and oh no, Florian Eichner is off, and that's in the middle of the straightaway on the approach to Canada corner.
That's a weird spot. I mean, he was either wrecking for a long time out of the kink, or he got turned after the kink by a faster car.
That's not going to help matters.
That looked like one of my rejoins, and I mean, these things don't flick spin like the NASCAR cars do. I've learned over the last couple weeks. Oh, man.
Yikes. That was a huge off. Good grief, that was a big one.
And he didn't do himself any favors with that rejoin either. He already broke the front end, and then he said, well, I might as well knock this thing off. And it still didn't come off, so he got a little lucky that he still got a front bumper. Unfortunately, that does cost him a heavy chunk of time. But he's already, a handful of laps down to the GT Pro field, not really fighting anybody, so not the end of the world, because the end of the world has unfortunately already came for the Audi 84 a little bit earlier.
Thomas Martin, for Fisher Motorsports, currently on wet weather tires. He is the first GTP that is on the wet weather rubber. Your race leader still on dry tires. Also on wet tires right now, you've got Remy Loge, Jean-Philippe Weed for Team Hardcore just put on the wet weather rubber. Julius Savone is on wet tires for Trading Paints Racing. Dane Performances Theo Taylor just went on to wets. And then Fisher Motorsports, the Porsche we just saw wreck, just came in for wet weather tires as well. I can't imagine what that might have been related to.
I feel like it's a little early. A little early for the wet weather tires. I mean, I'm looking at our GTP leader. I'm gonna check his lap times real quick, just to make sure. Before the rain, they're running 149s pretty consistently. Now they're running 152s. That's, it's 3 seconds slower, but the wet tires aren't gonna get you back down to the 148s. And I get, you gotta hit it right. You gotta, you're kind of playing it by ear, but it honestly looks like the rain lightens up ever so slightly and then gets heavier. So I think this is just a little too early for those wet tires.
It could be in preparation, though. You know, sometimes it's better to be out there on wet weather tires for, 2-3 laps and then get into, like, the nitty-gritty of the huge rainfall than to go out on dries and then be forced to pit half a stint later when you don't have to, just for a set of tires.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. The problem is I think this is 5 or 6 laps too early, not too early. And, like you said, it's much, much better to pit too early than pit too late. But I don't think that this was the right call yet. I think you're going to be a little bit slower, the 830, off the racetrack through the carousel.
Jan-Philippe Weed for Team Hardcore going around and just lost that one by himself. I guarantee you that is that's slick tires on a wet track for you. Never seen that before until the rain started to fall.
I mean, yeah, these things have been gripped up through the carousel all night. You've been flying through there. But the rain comes and it does slick it off a little bit. And we've seen that. But again, if you take it easy, you're running 3 seconds a lap slower than what you were running in the dry, and that's not a big enough changeover to put on the wets yet. It's just you can't spin around. You can't be losing time like that, or else you should have put on the wets. And unfortunately for Hardcore, they're going to lose a little bit of time. I think we've had a couple off tracks as well. Full Send Racing has gone off track coming down towards the carousel, the left-hander before it. And he found the gravel, but nothing too crazy. And then Dangler Performance, that's what we're looking at right now. On the outside of the final corner, just drifting wide, trying to give room to the faster car coming through. Gets back on the racetrack with no damage, just losing a little bit of time.
Fight for the LMP2 lead is close. Vision One Motorsports and GAC Racing Esports are tucked up nose to tail. Both of these racers still on slick tires. And boy, GSC closed in a crap ton coming around to that last corner and wasn't able to take it anywhere for Luca Harmony because, well, Jeremy Carter was side by side with the GTM.
You're starting to see the trails coming off the tires. That's where I start getting a little nervy. Whenever I start seeing the trails coming off the tires, you know that it's at least close. The track is absolutely wet at this point. You're struggling a little bit more. And still, I'm looking at Dan Marquez in the lead of the GTP, though. He's just ran a second faster than he was running a couple laps ago. And he's still in the slicks as the track is getting wetter. So I think a couple of these guys are getting more acclimated to it. They're getting a little bit more confident. The scary part about that is overconfidence is a killer. And I'd be a little bit worried for some of these guys. Just getting a little bit too confident in the rain because you never know whenever that rain is just going to pick up ever so slightly when you're going to get up to a curb that hasn't had a puddle on it all day. All of a sudden, this time coming around, there's a puddle down there, and you got to dodge it. And unfortunately, I do think a lot of these guys are not going to be able to dodge them. But so far, I'm not seeing the puddles, but I am starting to see those tire trails. You're seeing them coming out of turn number 1. Those tire trails are starting to pick up on the west side of the racetrack.
Kinetic Racing looking to the inside of North Sim Racing, battling for the top 5 in GT Pro. And Aiden Campbell takes one away from Andrea Lacoya. So Kinetic Racing up to 5th, and North Sim Racing going to drop back to 6th. And those rooster tails, they're only going to continue to get bigger as the rain continues to fall. Matthew Rootson for HAC Racing is into pit road. And I'm assuming he's going to make it the switch to wet weather.
Yeah, I agree. If you're coming in now, you're making the switch. The thing is, you want to stay out as long as possible so you don't have to have an extra pit stop. If you're pitting now, you've got to come down one more time. So the wets, yeah, they seem nice. And I think they'll be nice in a couple of laps. But for now, our race leader's still running 151s. I don't think the wets are going to be that fast.
Well, there's a good indicator for you. Patrick Vogel on slick tires just overtook Jan-Philippe Weed, who is on wet weather tires right now. And Patrick Vogel's tires are 15 laps old, whereas Weed's, well, they're only about 4. We also got a battle for the LMP2 race lead. Jeremy Carter under heavy fire by Luca Harmony.
Yeah, these guys have been nose to tail for a while. They're trying to get past some of the GT cars. It's the 93 that they're trying to go by. They were side by side coming down to Canada Corner as they approach that slower traffic. The leader able to hang on there for the LMP2 lead, had the inside groove, just broke a little bit deeper. But this is where the side-by-side racing gets fun, right? Because you start, you're not able to run the rubbered in line. We've been running for an hour and a half on the rubbered in line, and now you kind of want to start avoiding that. That's the slickest part of the racetrack other than the paint. And so, honestly, your LMP2 leader going down into the defensive line might have found more grip on the bottom side of the racetrack than Harmoning could on the outside, with there being, I mean, you can see the inside of the racetrack, very gray. The outside's, oh, black, but there it was right there. Harmoning proving me wrong. He used the rubber line on entry and just had a tremendous amount of speed coming around the outside. He takes the lead coming down the straightaway to the hard, heavy braking zone. Changing the lead in the LMP2 field, and our race leader in GTP is down pit road.
That was a beautiful overtake for Luca Harmony to take the lead away in LMP2. Take a look. We talk about asserting control. Licked the stamp and sent it.
That's pure commitment. I mean, he waited until the last second to pull out and brake and just flow around the outside, not worried about the wet. What a move from Harmony to be able to take the lead. He hasn't been able to get away, though. Carter's kept him honest as they come down into the carousel.
Now, this is where, again, Luca Harmony has got to be very careful, because if there's ever a spot where you can spin out, it's going to be in this area right about here, either in the kink or in the carousel. Marquez, Martinez, both are in pit road right now in GTP. That's second and third. Luca Harmony started to pull away here in the battle for the LMP2 race lead, so we could be seeing him looking to run this one right out towards the pit stop window.
We'll have to wait and see, probably another 5 minutes or so until we start seeing some really, really heavy rain. Or I say really heavy. I mean, it's heavier rain than what we're getting right now. So we're getting dangerously close to that point, but I'm still looking at my crash report chart, and there's just not a lot of people actually binning it or actually throwing it off track, which still leads me to believe that we're a little bit too early to cross over to the wets.
Dan Marquez just lost out to Christophe Demay for second place at GTP, and you saw as well one of the GT Pro Porsches having a bit of a wobble, I believe. That was for fourth place in your GT Pro category. And it's looking like Demay is going to be able to drive away pretty steadily from Marquez. We'll look back, and, well, there you see DS Racing Esports team trying to pressure Digital Chicane. And this is the battle for overall 23rd and the lead of all the GT cars.
I'm going to point out Bravo Snow Shatton has stayed out on the racetrack on the slick tires. Edward Toldo in that number 50. He ran a 150.2 last lap. He was actually quicker than your GTP race leader while he was on the dry tires. So Toldo's got the pace.
He certainly does, and that would be great for him considering all the misfortunes that car saw earlier today.
Oh, the previous GTP race leader has just destroyed his car coming out of the kink. Dan Marquez, the front end is completely gone.
Oh dear. That is big trouble.
He just put on wets.
And this is the approach. Just swung wide, clipped the grass. I think that may have happened regardless if it was wet or dry, because he had two tires into the grass there.
Yeah, just on the outside, going through the kink, put him off a little bit, and he just let it go a little bit too wide. I'm looking, let's see, Hack Racing has come down and put on wet tires, I believe. They're 37 seconds off your new race leader, but he's running slower. He was about 4/10 faster, but I think that Bravo Snow Shatton still got the pace on the slick tires for at least another lap or two. But man, that's huge. That's a complete a blindside move from the GTP field. I mean, I thought Demay probably had this thing wrapped up, but just got caught up through the kink, and now the GTP field is wide open.
And all of that still leaves effectively this battle for first in LMP2 as the lone fight on the racetrack. So 1 hour of racing is left in the JRT Summer Sprint. So we're going to take ourselves with just one more step away, and we'll be back in a moment on Reflight TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Tonight's race is brought to you by Twin Bush USA, your one-stop shop for your automotive workshop equipment, located in North Las Vegas, Nevada. Contact them today or look them up at twinbushusa.com. As well as that, by JRT. JRT aims to be a tool to help drivers to manage their races by displaying different information that can be customized, including timing, track maps, dashboards, or a visual spotter as an overlay or external display. You can check them out as well today. So it is all kicking off once again at as we just about see the third place runner Bravo Shatton go for a wild one. We've got a lot that has taken place under this yellow flag, and we'll kick it off first and foremost with Josh Goen, as the Goen race machine has had a pretty significant off, and that was courtesy of Trading Paints. They just missed the first barrier, but then caught the second barrier on the approach. I'm not sure what corner this is. I believe that is down into turn 3, though. So missing barrier 1, but then clattering into barrier 2, which is unfortunate for them. Duarte went off the racetrack at the top of the hill. They collided, it looked like, with the MSP machine. And then we get to the big stuff. Julia Savone having a big off, and this is the Trading Paints race machine. Vulture Motorsports helping her out, and she spins it around. Doesn't hit anything, able to keep it up on the racetrack. So not a bad run for her. Then Mark DeBoer having a problem as well.
Coming into the final corner for the 911. We already got that front end damage, and well, that has all the makings of I'm still on dry tires, and we have hit the changeover point. That was a very lazy spin. We saw a couple of those under that. We see the rain coming down pretty heavily now. We're starting to get into the heavier or starting to get into the light green rather than the darker blue on the radar. So I'd say that we've hit the changeover point. We've seen a lot of people come down to take the wet tires. Looking at Bravo Snow Shat, and whenever we came back, they were just about losing it out of 3. They had just come out of pit road trying to get the tires up to temperature. But they're still running in third, and I got to point out, these guys were running, what, 40, 45 minutes on gas, right? 40-ish. With the rain, you're going to be saving more gas. So can Toldo in that 50 cut out a pit stop and make it to the end after pitting with 55 minutes to go?
And we'll see. They're caught behind a good chunk of GT and prototype traffic right now, but if there's ever a place to get through a lot of it, it's right here on the straightaway. But again, that spray started to come into play, and you can already see visibility growing worse and worse as this rain continues to drop. The LMP2 race leader, Sam Vaughn for Tri-State Racing, is into pit road.
I got to think for the LMP2s, this could start, I don't know, man. It's going to be so close on whether they can make it on gas or not with the slower pace in the wet. I mean, you save more gas, but just how much can you save? How with the lower gas limits that we're seeing today? I'm a little concerned. Now the LMP2s, they didn't get completely slashed with the fuel, right? They're still at 95% full tank. So I think that they've got a better chance to make this than a couple of these other classes. But still, 53 minutes. The LMP2s, they made it the least amount of time the entire season so far without the fuel changes that we had this week. So I imagine they're probably about even with the rest of the field now in terms of how long you can stay out on the racetrack. Is that composite performance going off just about?
Oh, wow. Well, it started as a loose moment, and I'm not sure what it developed into. But for your former LMP2 race leader, Sam Vaughn jumps out of the car, and Jesse Molina jumps in. So the Tri-State Racing 333 exits pit road, now down in 6th. 39 seconds off the leaders.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out exactly what went on with composite performance. I'm not seeing a disconnect or anything, so I think that was just, might have been a little bit of a rage quit. I'm not quite sure, but still got a interesting race up towards the front with the 111 being, yeah, they're 18 seconds in the lead, but they've got a pit stop for sure. I don't know about Bravo Snow Shatton. They might be able to save this thing and make it to the end, and even if they don't, they're going to have a pretty short pit stop. But it's not going to be enough to make up 30 seconds on Demai. They're really going to have to hope and pray that they can make it to the end without pitting again. But there's still just so much strategy that's left out on the board for these guys. I mean, the LMP2 field is close, just about a second between your top two LMP runners. GT Pro is pretty spread apart, but that is only because the 6 hasn't pitted yet. Everybody else behind him has. So you're really looking at that race lead being 4 seconds between the 151 and the 116, and then the GTM, looking back at the 555, they had not pitted yet. So you're looking at the 80, you're looking at the 93, which, by the way, the 93 has recovered up to what will be P2. That's impressive out of that team after what they had to go through.
Only 51 minutes to go, and again, we still do not have any sign of a safety car so far in this race. Could this be the first yellow-free race all season? The trend is starting to say like it very well might be. Some sunlight, though, breaching through the clouds and starting to warm this track, and this is where those changing conditions come in because it is definitely still raining. The sunlight comes from somewhere that is currently not above the racing grounds.
You're going to have to wait and see to see how many people are coming in. I mean, this has to be a wet tire changeover. I thought that they were on wets already. You told me during the commercial that they weren't. I figured the overlay was broken, but them coming down pit road already has me a little concerned. The 992 going well off the racetrack. That was your GT Pro leader.
And then Jan-Philippe Weed going off as well at the same corner and just spearing off. And then has Denise Denisio done the same? Nope, different corner for this one. No, it was the same corner. So 3 cars going off at the exact same place, just seconds apart from each other.
Yeah, that's signs that the track is getting worse, for sure. We're looking at the 88 and the 111, both down pit road for the GTPs. I gotta think that that's a wet tire changeover. I thought for sure that these guys were already on wets and our overlay was just broken, but with them pitting with 49 minutes to go and with how much their lap times have been slowing down, this has all the makings of we have finally hit the changeover point. Even Toldo, and I thought that Bravo Snow Shatton made a great call to come down pit road, take wets. Toldo looks like he's on dries. I mean, he is puttering around this place. So I think Bravo Snow Shatton might have had an atrocious pit call.
From the information I have right now, Lucas Freire is the only car that is currently still on slick tires in his BMW M4. Also the lone BMW, well, sorry, one of 2 BMWs in the field. So right now, that's what he is doing, but he is also lapping about a second slower than Andres Quintana, the GT Pro race leader, who is on wet weather tires. So I think right now, they're taking it easy. They're trying to get themselves to the next fuel stop. Because at this point, they would be able to make it to the end on fuel.
You can just see the different lines they're having to take through the corners now, though. The track is just wet. I mean, they're unable to take the normal racing line around a lot of these corners. The braking zones are way, way longer. They're having to slow up tremendously lap after lap. Just not able to get the same performance out of all these cars that they've been able to this entire time. It is too wet and it is too tight coming through there.
So one of the folks watching along at home on YouTube has actually brought a very good point to mind about what could have happened to composite performance. And it's the same thing that bit them big at Coda. And it's something we keep on forgetting. The 21 incident limit. Could they have hit that when they went off track? And that was the cause of the sudden jump out of the session.
Oh, Demai, he just came down pit road, and now he's in the gravel coming out of the last corner.
Possibly into the fence. But yeah, that would explain the sudden
low incident limit.
Yeah, they brought it in a while back, and it has been showing that since they've brought that in, the racing has cleaned up a good bit. It's amazing when you have a threshold of how much you can mess up before you find yourself down and out. Taylor Parsons also going around for Screeching Moose Motorsports.
That earlier one out of the last corner
Lazy spin
was going, and then we saw Demai do it as well, and that's what we're getting the replay of now. So yeah, I think it's safe to say the track is not good. These guys are struggling, man. It is a fight out on the racetrack, just spinners left and right. Screeching Moose is a team that you typically don't expect to see those mistakes out of, but it's happened, and now they're back out of the top 5 of the GT Anfield. How about Kaprowski in the 93, man? That team was down and out. They were 55 seconds off of the race lead. They've cut it down to 20. And with 45 minutes to go, if they keep that pace up, they very well could catch up to their teammate of Mitchell in the 80.
Tanner Gruber gets around Lucas Frere, so Vision Motorsports gets around Delta Racing. That was for 8th place. And as well as that, you've just had an overtake for the LB2 race lead. And Tualdo going off the track for a moment as your GTP leader. But here's Dennis Denisio for GSC Racing Esports breaking around Jeremy Carter.
Coming down to the tight left-hander, or the heavy braking left-hander.
Division 1 let him have it.
Straight away. And not really too much to it, just giving the position up. Toldo. Excuse me, Toldo for Bravo Shatton.
Whoa! Oh no! John Jones for Firestorm Motorsports spinning out and clipping Jesse Molina. Nothing that Firestorm could do about that. That's again.
Bravo Shatton has just been run off the racetrack by a GT. I think it was Benjamin Fisher that got into him. I can't quite tell. Somebody has tagged Bravo Shatton. Sorry, this was half a lap ago. I was on a replay, so that's intelligent. But regardless, that's why he lost a chunk of time. He was 3 seconds up over Martinez. He lost 3 seconds because he got tapped by a GT coming through the. He's on the very inside of the racetrack, and Fisher just turned in way too tight and cost Toldo a good chunk of time. Luckily, Toldo was able to hang on to it, but now he's in a fight for the race lead of the GTPs.
Yeah, Alvaro Martinez is right behind, and he is ready to pounce as fighting his way down towards the carousel on board with Alvaro Martinez of the World of Sim Racing team. And again, having to alternate lines here a little bit, trying to find where that grip is. Tucks up right behind, and all of that spray, you can just barely make out the Acura in front. And that kind of give a chase. You can't even see the taillights anymore.
How do you even know where to turn? I mean, like, you cannot even see the turn-in point for the kink, and you're flying through there so heavy, all of a sudden you come down to the braking zone, you get close enough that the spray's not really hitting you, they're not going fast enough for the spray to kick up too heavy, and all of a sudden there's a back bumper right in front of you out of absolutely nowhere.
And that is Ryan Steinhoff making his way back onto the racetrack after he just had a little spin a moment ago. But a lot of it has got to do with feel, right? I mean, these drivers practice these races so much that they can feel their way around these racetracks, and that is such a valuable skill when the conditions get bad like they are now. Jeremy Carter is into pit road for his final stop, presumably, of the afternoon. Might be second last. It might be a fuel mileage race for him. Well, this battle for the overlead is on, and whoa, boy, Martinez right to the back end of Tualdo.
Trying to fight him for that race lead, coming down to turn 3, looking at the weather radar. The rain is just going to continue to get worse. We're just now entering the green, and it is about to hit dark green for the weather radar. So this rain is about to start coming down even harder. We are 20 seconds off of the pace in dry tires now, or off the dry tire pace on a dry racetrack. So we're running way slower of lap times. These guys are tiptoeing around, and if you don't tiptoe, you end up stuffing your front end into the fence like we just saw the 94 do on that replay.
Yeah, that was David Slider that had that off, and then I think that was about it for that incident. But Again, it's getting a little bit hairy out here for quite a few of these drivers trying to make whatever they're trying to do here work, and there's not a lot of time for these guys to get themselves sorted. Whoa, a huge dive from Martinez! Steals the lead away from Bravo Snow's Shatton. They were done waiting.
Just willing to drive it in a little bit harder. Oh, maybe too hard through the carousel. He's in the grass. He's in the dirt. He's through the gravel. He's lost the lead back.
Martinez loses the lead back to Tualdo. Meanwhile, Marcelino takes up the lead in LMP2. It's all kicking off around the Road America circuit. Christoph DeMay just binned it along with Kevin Mueller. So a whole host of incidents going on.
Oh, Toldo almost wrecked it through Canada Corner. This is getting terrible. The racetrack is gone.
Where do you look? Where do you go to try to find out what the heck is happening? Here's a huge train of GTs with Rising Panda Racing trying to get through on the lot of them. Goodness gracious. So Martinez went off the racetrack. That much is a guarantee.
We have completely lost the racetrack at this point. I mean, it is soaked. He just made the move, and the 51 just a little bit too wide, stepping it out there too far, giving that lead back, and I think he's had another issue. Coming through Canada Corner, he had another one, man. He's dropped 4 seconds off the race lead. He went through the gravel twice in one lap.
So we saw the pass for the LMP2 race lead. This is what happened to Kevin Mueller. Whoa, just snapped the Audi around, took off the front bumper. This was Christoph DeMay's incident as he drifted down and onto the racetrack and managed to get himself, managed to get that ship righted, but only just, and he spun it around. Alvaro Martinez, you mentioned, having another problem at Canada Corner. Right as Tawaldo was as well. They were both trying to drift it through. Tawaldo made it. Martinez didn't, and then after that, Quinn Mitchell and Steven Martinez both had incidents.
Wait a minute. Has Kaprowski passed? Kaprowski's passed Mitchell because of this. Mitchell spun out and gave the lead over to his teammate, so the 93, after having the disconnect about an hour ago, is back up in the race lead.
They never quit. They never know when to quit. This is Martinez going off right behind the other digital chicane car. Goodness gracious. I mean, this is kicking into high gear. And all of this, the battle still remains for third in GT Pro.
Goodness gracious. Oh no, oh no. I don't think the battle's gonna last for long.
Nope, no it ain't.
I mean, the laziest spin I've ever seen in my life. There's just no grip. There's nothing. You've got to be so gentle on all of your inputs. Whether it's the wheel, whether it's the brake, whether it's the gas, you've just got to be so gentle. Side by side for third now. Vulture Motorsports trying to hang up, not side by side. That's a GTM getting by them, but just a little bit of a lead for Vulture Motorsports now over North Sim Racing for third.
You see how gingerly they're tiptoeing through these corners now, struggling to get the power down at all with how much standing water now is out on the racetrack. And remember, all of these drivers right now, for the most part, they are on wet weather tires, which does not make this any easier for them.
They all are. They better be. If you're not on wet weather tires at this point, you're probably running 2-minute 40-second laps, if not worse. Talking about GTP race pace anyway. I don't even know about the GT field, the GT AMs and the GT Pros. Looking at their lap times in the dry, they're running 2:07s. In the wet, they're running 2:25, so almost 20 seconds off the pace for the GTs as well.
Oh, Ryan Kaprowski's just binned it.
No!
Your GTM race leader goes around. He's going to drop back. Quinn Mitchell takes up the spot again. Kaprowski will get it rolling, though, and he'll hang on to the number 2 spot.
He just took the lead because of his teammate wrecking through that corner, and he gives it back on the next lap. Still only 8 seconds back, so he's still well within the fight, especially with these conditions. But, man, they had it gifted to him on a silver platter after the issue earlier. And then he just gives it right back.
This is down to turn 5.
That's right in front of your GTP leader, too.
Whoops. Again, it's those lazy spins, and like we were talking about, that is going to be the trouble spot all day today. Right on board here with Ryan Kaprowski, as that's not the line.
No.
That's not the line.
No, Kaprowski losing another 2.5, 3 seconds.
It's not, and
That's
remember,
something
it's an chicane 1-2 right now. They're not going to complain about that. But again, coming through the kink here, I mean, look at how gingerly you have to walk through there. There's still quite a bit of wheel work going on through there.
Oh, we need to switch to our GTP leader. And he has been caught heavy. Edward Toldo has been caught heavy by Alvaro Martinez and Nicholas Peterson. They're both within a second and a half. And Toldo has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars that he's got to get past right in front of him. The GTP lead, the overall race lead, has closed up tremendously. Oh, no, he's got nowhere to go. The
Oh,
3
boy.
wide in front of the race leader. He's got nowhere he can go.
That is not a sight you want to see right in front of you. And again, you go on board, nothing. No visibility whatsoever. This is an absolute madhouse right now on board with Alvaro Martinez, who's going to make the outlook for second, trying to get around MSP. Can't get through. I mean, this is madness right now. What we're seeing unfolding on the racetrack road. America contact, and Martinez is almost sent around.
What do you even do? Nicholas Pedersen has come from so far back. He was 7 seconds off the race lead not too long ago. He's within half a second.
Oh, boy.
Within half a second of Edward Toldo.
So, right there, you heard Pedersen, as soon as he got into the spray there of Toldo or more, he feathered the throttle. He went to about half throttle. He was not about to chance to go at full throttle through that.
Well, in the wet like this, right? Whenever you're trying to go for the move, you don't necessarily have to get right up on their bumper and pressure them, hope for a mistake lap after lap, because you know a mistake's going to come. You just know that at some point he's going to do something a little errant, a little wrong, and especially now, I'm looking as we're coming through a couple of these corners, I'm starting to see a couple puddles on the apex of a couple of these corners finally, so it's going to get even harder for these guys to run the line that they want, and Toldo's trying to get past a GTM car coming around the outside of the carousel, still hanging on to the race lead, and it looks like it's actually going to hang up the MSP number 3 a little bit heavier, allow Toldo a little bit of breathing room coming through the kink, and there's a puddle forming on the inside of the kink too.
You see the big puddle right on the outside of the kink that they're trying to battle their way through as well, and still, the speeds that they're able to carry down the straights are immense when you consider the conditions right now that these drivers are battling with. Still got the battle for third on in your GT Pro field. Jeff Carollo trying to hang on against Vincent Olivier. Vulture and Kinetic going at it. And whoa, boy, Kinetic, where are you going?
That was a dive and a half, wasn't it? I mean, my word, just about off the racetrack on the inside. Might have been off the racetrack and just shoves them out wide. Able to take the spot. Not the cleanest move, but, well, he got it done, and they're both still pointing in the right direction.
It was a move, that is for sure. On board. I think he overshot. I think he missed sight of the braking point because of all the rain.
To be fair, he still made the corner. Like, if he didn't have the cars in front of him, I think he would have hit the apex and been fine.
I don't know. I mean, he was pretty much cutting the corner into the grass there with that one.
But that makes me think that if he cuts the corner into the grass like that, I would have thought that he would have gone a whole hell of a lot wider. So I think if he had a normal groove, he'd have been fine. But to your point, he did overshoot it with the fact that there were 2 cars in front of him that were going slower. You can't drive through them, which, to be fair, I mean, I say you can't drive through them. He kind of did.
Kinetic Racing forces their way into the number 3 spot for GT Pro. Just under 35 minutes to go. As all of this is continuing to escalate, that rain continuing to come down to this point, it's not going away. It is here to stay, and this race is going to be finishing on a wet track.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Looking at the radar, it's, well, there is an opening popping up.
The track's not dry for this, though, in 30 minutes.
No, it's not drying, but it might not get worse in about 10 minutes. We're going to see it kind of stagnate for about 5, potentially. But even then, it's probably still going to be light rain. There's a little opening, but it's not going to stop raining. It's just going to stop making the track worse. You might see them be able to push off some of the standing water to make it a little bit better for a short period of time. Seen a couple of competitors come down pit road. 017 Delano coming out for Vulture Motorsports in the GTM field. But to your point, I mean, we're still going to be seeing rain fall throughout the entire time, and even after that little hole that I see that we might hit in about 10 minutes, it's still going to get heavier after that. Going off the racetrack again. That's your LMP2 championship leader, losing another chunk of time. We've seen that 18 off the racetrack time and time again, and wow, that is an overshoot and a half.
Yeah, just locked out going to the corner, went straight on. Didn't hit anything, though. So he is back in action. Still down in 5th, though. It's a pretty big chunk of points that they're at risk of losing out. And, oh boy, Garrett Spence is off and Rui Souza is off. Garrett Spence is off. Quinn Mitchell just rejoined the racetrack. I think we've just had a multi-class incident down in Canada.
Oh, the digital chicane number 80. They lost the lead back to the 93. I'm not quite sure when the 93 passed the 80 back. I think the 80's had a couple of issues.
Wild spin for Souza. Then you see the Tri-State Race LMB2 just going off in sympathy. So just a few cars kind of going off at the same time.
The digital chicane 80 is now back to 3rd. So the 93's firmly in the race lead. The 80's had a couple bad laps in a row.
And this is the cause of why they lost the lead. So the 80 machine of Quinn Mitchell having to spin, and we had just seen that as well. Well, we caught the tail end as it was rejoining the racetrack. So that all puts Kaprowski back into the race lead. Now, the big question that I think drivers have got to be concerned about, and teams in particular, how is race control going to deal with these disconnects? Because remember, so we see Rui Souza off again. There are minimum drive time requirements, and if your drivers get disconnected, there's not a whole lot you can do about that other than put another driver in and get going. I think they do allow exceptions for that, because obviously they can see who dropped out of the session. So they know who's who. You can check who's in the car. And not to mention, the time lost by putting the new driver in the car, because you have to take a whole tow back to the pits, is pretty immense. So I don't see why they would penalize that, but it is always something that plays in the back of your mind as a driver in this situation.
Well, and I got to point out the digital chicane 80 actually didn't lose the lead off of that spin. They had come down pit road the lap before. So that spin was on their out lap. They gave up the lead, and then had that spin, which puts them even further behind. I'm concerned about whether the others can make it. The 93, though, I believe has had an incident.
Yep, off in the grass.
The same corner that the 80 just spun it around the last time by.
It's catching a lot of the GT cars out this corner. It is not a corner that they like at all right now. It's that curb. They just keep clipping that curb on the inside, and it just hooks you around, especially in the wet like this. Bravo Shat is still under fire from Nicholas Pedersen for Mayor Sims P Performance. And this battle for the overall lead is about to get wild.
Yeah, these guys have been close time and time again, lap after lap. And it could be kicking off right here. Toldo under fire. Pedersen just thinks better of it, not going to dive him down into that corner. Probably a smart move. He's been a little bit quicker than the 50. He gave him some space. Dropped off about a second and a half, and he slowly reeled that back in, just waiting for a mistake out of the 50, just looking for an opportunity as they crawl down to this 90-degree left. Look how slow they're going, and that GT in front of them still goes off the racetrack, cycling down into the carousel. Pedersen not able to find a way around Toldo yet. He's got that higher line through the carousel, trying to get a little bit more speed. Coming down to the kink, finding a little bit of the clean air, trying to just view the braking point, not the braking point, but viewing the turning point, coming down into the kink, able to do it, but again, through the kink, you're just going to lose time like that.
Yeah, down by 1.4 seconds now, albeit able to close up with a lot of the GT traffic in front, and goes from 1.4 seconds down to 3.5 tenths, and now right up the gearbox of Eduardo Tualdo.
The accordion effect that we see in the rain is just insane, especially with them going through the slower traffic. Toldo builds up the lead by a second and a half, and then he gets a little sketchy moment like that, loses it back down.
Oh, Pedersen's pitting.
Down pit road.
Final stop of the day for Pedersen. This comes on lap 67. I think that means Tualdo will have to come in as well, so Pedersen going for an undercut here.
I agree 100%. I mean, it had been 17 laps for the MSP number 3. It's only been 13 for Toldo, but I mean, if he was right on the edge of the fuel window, you got to think Toldo's only got probably 5 more laps of gas. If he wasn't on the edge, then who knows? Maybe Toldo can stretch it a little bit further, especially because, like I said earlier, they're running so much slower in the wet. They are going to save a lot of a lot of fuel. 25 seconds slower. I can't tell you exactly how much fuel they're saving, but that's a hefty hefty amount of gas that these guys are saving lap after lap. Number 3 still in pit road.
A lot of drivers still suffering their own little spins as well throughout all of this mayhem, as it's getting there, right? I mean, this is a lot of drivers now that are struggling big time to try and keep pace. You've seen a few more spins there for Giulio Savone as well as Jeff Carollo. Proviso Shadden still holding on by 1 second from Alvaro Martinez now. We've started to close in, but again, both of these cars have to pit.
You got to think, you know, like you said, if these guys both have to come down pit road, then the MSP number 3 is trying to find some clean air by pitting a little bit earlier, right? He came down pit road. He's trying to find some clean racetrack, so he's not going to get the spray, and that he can hopefully pass these guys on the pit sequence rather than having to pass them on the racetrack a little bit safer. Could be a little bit smarter of a move for Nicholas Pedersen. He's coming down to the heavy braking zone, that left-hander that's seen so many people caught out so far, while your 2 GTP leaders coming around the final sector. Is this the lap where they decide to call it quits and come down pit road for their final pit stop?
Coming around the final turn. No, they stay. Well, one of them stays out for one more. Martinez will bail into pit road.
Again, Toldo went 4 laps further than Martinez. He pitted 4 laps after Martinez did, so you got to think Toldo's got another 10 minutes of gas at least in the tank, just off of the normal race pace from everybody else. So maybe he can even stretch it a little bit further. Maybe he can stretch it 12, 14 minutes and take as little gas as possible and not take tires. That could be the strategy that we're seeing out of that number 50. Could cut out a good chunk of time on the pit stop. And he was in the lead before the pit stop, so as long as he keeps it on the racetrack, it very well could be the winning strategy for that number 50.
Battles on for second and third, along with fourth. North Summer Racing, Kinetic Racing, DS Racing Esports team. All in a line right now. Andrea Lacoya heads up the way for Vincent Olivier, and then, of course, Bruno Carrera still tagging on to the rear end. But right now, Lacoya doing a good job on keeping himself up in front for that number 2 spot. Still 8 seconds, though, off of Jonathan Dance of Torch Freak Racing in the GT Pro lead.
Dance has done a great job in that number 6, to be honest. I was thinking that maybe they had been on a different pit sequence, but they've actually pitted the same lap as all these other GT pros, and that was 10 laps ago, so I'm kind of surprised to see the 67 come down pit road. They had just pitted 11 circuits ago. I wouldn't expect them to come down pit road at the current moment, but maybe just a little bit different of a strategy play, knowing that they got to come down and take some fuel anyway. Might as well get it out of the way.
Lacoya currently running up there in the number 2 spot. And I think what we're seeing Kinetic Racing doing right now, they know they have to stop one more time before the end of this race, so they figure, well, let's get it out of the way early.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh, what happened?
The 93, the digital chicane 93, the race leader, he's got no front end through the kink. It might have popped back on, but he has nosed that thing into the barrier coming out of the kink.
You can see the damage, yeah. It's back on, but you can see that damage. And
we thought it was a recovery drive.
Oh, whoa!
Recovery drive, but no.
Good grief. Just caught the paint on the curb and couldn't get off of it.
Oh, I mean, what a recovery drive from them up in the race lead, and now it's all for nothing.
It's not over. They might have a chance to at least get second, but we'll see. On board. And this is with Kyle Lowe.
I believe Kaprowski was driving at the time. Kyle Lowe's just got in the car.
Yeah, I think you're right, but ouch.
Yeah.
That hurts. You hate to see that. And David Slider having a problem of his own. And there's no rear wing on that car. So,
that's a big problem.
So the loss of downforce is understandable as he slammed that thing into the kink. So I have to find out what happened to David Slider that caused him to lose that wing.
Yeah, good luck getting around this place in the wet.
Oh, man, the other digital chicane car spun off.
That's right after he had just passed his teammate for second.
Oh, boy.
As his teammate was on pit road. He still passed his teammate. They got 15 seconds on him. But,
oh, and now Kyle Burney's off in the kink.
Oh, no.
Man, the kink's catching everyone out right now. Oh, boy. Oh, he lost that one on entry and just never recovered. Firestorm Motorsports got damage on the front end.
What in the world is going on? I
Well,
mean,
we have a car
down
out of the front stretch.
What? Lacoya, how the... that has to have been, getting turned by somebody,
I'm at a
right?
loss.
There's no way.
Yeah, it was. The 992 just got into him.
Oh, that's pretty straightforward.
Trying to be
I mean,
nice about that one, but that might... Well, let's ride on board
That'll
for
be
the
a
Carrera
penalty.
first.
That'll be a penalty. That's pretty straightforward. Well,
What in the world?
why did he slow up?
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, you can't do much if your opponent just slows in front of you. Let's ride aboard
Yeah.
Lacoya here.
I'd like to recant my penalty statement.
What was that? So
Did he hit the rev limiter so it slowed him down?
No. I mean, the car backed off of the rev limiter at first.
So he backed off the rev limiter and then shifted?
I wonder if he hit the pit limiter for like a split second. But we didn't see the pit limiter overlay come up on the wheel, so I have no idea. He didn't
Yeah,
get loose, we would have seen that.
I'll recant my penalty statement because if you're the
Yeah.
992, the last thing you expect is somebody to slow up before you get to the start-finish line on that straightaway. So
There's always two sides to a story.
yeah, you gotta get the full story. Check all the camera angles, and well, I thought it was inexcusable on the first camera angle, but after watching the in car there, it's clear that the driver in front just slowed down.
Can Bravo Stowe Shatton go for what should be their first race win of the season? That is right now the big ticket question. This team, just like Digital Chicane, has been through hell and back this season trying to get themselves with a good run. And could this finally be their day? They've come close. They've got to the podium before, but they have never finished on the top step.
Oh boy, you trying to jinx him?
It'd be it would go in two with this race, but we can't even see what's going on in the middle of all of this spray here. I mean, this is madness right now on the racetrack. I said it in the beer league race in the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I'll say it again. Formula One would be having a fit if they saw this.
Oh god, we would not be racing. There's no chance.
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh,
I mean, heck, I'm pretty
what in
sure
the
even
world?
like the club series that runs on my local track wouldn't be racing in this.
Toto able to get by the slower traffic. Finally, he got held up a good chunk there. The 992 coming down pit road, the 69 down pit road, 44. So the GT Pros all coming down. I got to imagine with only 20 minutes left, this has got to be a splash and go. You do not want to sit down pit road and take the tires with this little amount of time left, I'd got to think. Oh, was that
Drive-through for Carrera, yeah. He had a drive-through on that one.
Is this a drive-through for all three of them? Because look, Lacola's not stopping either.
No, Gruber Fisher Motorsports is in the pits. So firmly in pit row, but it looks like North Sim Racing, same story, a drive-through penalty. And that would be for a warning for the incidents. Like the incident limits, that is.
Yeah. Our second place GT Pro drivers just had an off coming down to the heavy braking zone at the end of the straightaway. That left-hander, but nothing too crazy. Just went straight, lost a good chunk of time. Nothing really too heavy to report. Don't even think he lost a spot. Actually, he did lose one position to the 151, but not too bad. Could have been a whole lot worse. Still looking at Toldo, I'm paying attention the most to Toldo, our overall winner.
Not winner yet, but leader.
Well, leader, sorry. I'm very pleasantly surprised with Toldo. I was talking about the 93 in the GT-AM class being the most snake-bitten team. I got to say, the 50 has not had much better luck. They have been wrecked out in just about every race. And a lot of that has been stuff through no fault of their own. And they're finding themselves up at the front of the field, hoping and praying that they've got enough gas to make it to the end. The next 18 minutes will be interesting to see if that 50 can make it. Hack Racing right behind them. They're 17 seconds down the road, but they're on 3-lap fresher tires, which means they have 3 laps more of fuel, which I'm really expecting the 111 to be able to make it to the end on gas. I'm nervous about the 50 up in the lead.
Watching these guys come around to the front straightaway here, just how quickly they appear and disappear through the mist that is being kicked up around Elkhart Lakes Road America right now. I mean, you can just barely see them up and over the rise, but we'll see as they as this camera flashes by and looks back down track. You can barely see Tualdo in the mist, and then already gone, like just gone like that. And that is how quickly, if something goes wrong, a car can come flying at you. It makes rejoining the track extremely treacherous, doesn't it?
Oh, what in the world?
Souza just looping it on standing water. And oh boy, Delano off at the same corner did the same thing. And just missed him.
Oh, still hits the outside wall, but that could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. That's a scary moment. And you got to think, if you're the first car off out in the gravel and you get hit by another car that's just drove in there by themselves, you just got to be sitting there thinking, what in the world, man? I'm so far off the racetrack. How in the world could you have possibly ended my race? Luckily, both those guys avoid each other out in the gravel pit, but that could have been huge for Sousa.
You know, I feel like a lot of drivers would be understanding of how you managed to ruin my race on my way out of the gravel pit right now. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this sucks. This sucks to drive in, I would imagine, is what a lot of teams are thinking right now. Hey, some like it, though. Some drivers thrive in conditions like this. As difficult as it is, and one of them that's not thriving is Jesse Molina going hard into the tires.
Yeah, Tri-State Racing has not had a good day. Lap off the pace in the LMP2 field, back in 9th. And just another incident coming out of the final corner.
Just went straight, locked up.
No, that looks like a... I'm looking at this back. That doesn't look like a lockup to me. That looks like he just didn't turn. I don't... like, that was so strange. I'm not seeing any tire lockup on the sequence here, going on their cockpit.
I am seeing taillights where headlights should be right now.
Maybe you're right. That was just a weird one. He didn't have a ton of wheel into it, but I guess you're right. I think he did lock up. I guess it's hard to differentiate between the tire smoke and the what are they called? Something trails. Rooster tails coming off the back end of these things.
That was in progress. Julia Savone having a pretty wild spin on the exit of turn, well, kind of around at turn 2, and then just slowly backed it up down the hill to a point where they could get it safely turned around. Yeah, just lost it, overcorrected. Didn't hit anything, so it's a good save overall. Got it off the racetrack relatively quickly. And yeah, just slowly backed down the hill until it could find a little outcrop for safety because it get turned around. 15 minutes to go, though, and this race is still, I think, even though it looks like all the gaps are decided, I don't think they are. One mistake, and the mistakes are common in this. They're a dime a dozen, and we're going to be seeing these battles closing right in for the lead. Look at that sight.
I'm still looking at the GTM. The 555 might have to make a pit stop, so I'm not 100% certain on whether they've got it locked up for GTM. Toldo might have to make a pit stop for a GTP, so I'm not locked into that. LMP2 I'm more confident in. Tri-State Racing's number 123 pitted 3 laps ago, so they can make it to the end. Second, Fisher Motorsports not looking likely, so I'm looking at Rising Panda over in 3rd for being the second place finisher potentially in LMP2. But like you said, the mistake could come from anyone at any time and completely throw this thing for a loop. So you never know. That all these battles, whether they look like they're far ways apart right now, they could close up in a matter of instants.
The next time we're going to be seeing the VSCA Sports Car Championship out will be after the summer break. This is round 7 of 10. The next race will be the Virginia Sports Car Grand Prix. That'll be on August 24th at the Virginia International Raceway, followed by and that'll be the last sprint race, actually, in August as well. Then is the Miami Sunrise 6 Hour on September 21st, and then Petit Le Mans, the 10-hour endurance race to close out the season on October 19th. So we're going to be seeing the Sprint Championship decided next week as well. And oh boy, Rising Panda Racing getting all over the racetrack. If you're interested on some more racing action, though, on Greenflight TV, we got you covered almost every day of the week. Tomorrow morning, the Classic IndyCar Series will be swinging on out to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Edifice Grand Prix, round 7 of their championship before they go on their own summer break. Tualdo into pit road. He could not make it. We knew he couldn't make it. And now we see him starting to pit for the final time, and we'll see if he can hang on to the race lead after Nicholas Pedersen went for the undercut. On top of the Edifice Grand Prix on Sunday, it's an Indy doubleheader because on Monday, the High Tide Race League Everest Designs Cup Series kicks off the playoffs. First race of the round of 12 will be out at the Brickyard for an 80-lap trip, and then the OMSRL Cup Series, going to be making their return to Green Flag TV, a long-awaited return for them. They will have their season opener coming from Daytona International Speedway on the 2nd of July. 60 laps around the World Center of Racing should be a good way to kick off the season. Tewaldo, currently in second. Christophe Demey, I believe he still have yet to pit as well. And Nicholas Pedersen, nowhere to be found. There he is. He will jump him for what we think could be the net race lead.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. The 111 pitted 4 laps after Bravo Snow Shatton did. And that leads me to believe that they're going to be very, very close coming to the end of this thing. I mean, they're taking 2 minutes and 10 seconds to get around this place. So at that rate, you're running 4 laps in 8 minutes and 40 seconds. So, I mean, if they can somehow save the gas, they've got a 30-second gap. And they've got to be able to save 2 more laps than however far Bravo Snow Shatton went. And Bravo Snow Shatton pitted while I was going racing off again. Bravo Snow Shatton pitted while we were still kind of in the dry, so we were running a little bit faster lap times. Now that it's completely dropped off a cliff, Hack Racing, they pitted whenever it had fully dropped off a cliff. So they very well could make it another lap or 2 further. I really think that Demey is just playing the gas-saving game at this point and just trying to hang on.
Well, I mean, even still, 4 laps, that's still only 8 minutes, so that's still a good long while with 4 minutes to spare. They'd have to stretch that tank out a bit more. I think you're right. It's going to be very close. And you know for a fact, if he has to come down for more fuel at the last second, which he does, he couldn't make it. I don't think he's going to hang on to that lead at all.
No, absolutely not. He was a good chunk of time behind Toldo, so he's going to come out probably in 3rd. I think he'll be safely in the 3rd place spot, but it's not going to be what he wanted. And that hands, like you said, the lead over to Pedersen. And now it's just going to take a mistake out of the number 3 to give Toldo another opportunity. I feel heartbroken for Bravo Snow Shatton because like I said, they've had a ton of bad luck this year. And while a win makes it feel a whole hell of a lot better and at least gives you something to hang your hat on, 2nd place isn't terrible, which is what it's looking like. But you're being so close. It's frustrating. It hurts being so close after a 2.5-hour race. You've had a frustrating season. You come out here thinking you might be able to win this thing, and now you're 3 seconds off the race lead, just hoping and praying for a mistake out of that number 3.
Again, not an impossibility by any stretch of the means. There's still 10 minutes, and we've seen before, a lot can happen in 10 minutes. Look at the 24 hours of Daytona, right? A lot happened in the last 15 minutes of that race. There's still time. This race is not yet over. If they can hit their marks, they still have a chance to try and see if they can reel the gap in to pounce if Pedersen makes a big mistake. Or if he gets held up by lap traffic. I mean, they closed 7/10 of a second that last quarter because Pedersen got checked up by Dangler.
They closed 7/10 and then it opened up a little bit further, just about immediately. So I think Toldo might have been held up behind somebody as well. Looking back, is this North Sim Racing?
Tri-State.
Tri-State.
Whoa, boy.
Oh.
Ow. And that broke, I think, a half shaft. Yeah, that broke the half shafts of those vehicles. Those wishbones are done. So they were forced to take a tow back to pit road.
They were having a decent night, and unfortunately, it just all goes awry. One mistake. Pedersen stretched out that gap to 5 seconds over Toldo now. But again, it just takes one mistake, like we just saw out of the 321, and it's all going to be for nothing. I think Gowen has had another issue. I mean, this is your LMP2 leader. Yeah, right where Tri-State stuck in the fence, and Gowen made an almost very similar mistake. About the same thing, but he drove it into the runoff area, got that thing turned around. Still lost a huge chunk of time, but this is back-to-back weeks for the LMP2 LMP2 championship leader, where they look human. They don't look unbeatable.
Right now, Marcelino for Tri-State Racing looking like they are going to get set to take one of Tri-State's first wins of the season. Still this battle for second in GT Pro that we're keeping an eye on. World of Sim Racing and Kinetic Racing are both going at it right now, trying to see if they can't get something to happen. Looking like we could have new winners all across the board, except for the GTP and the overall win. They, of course, won the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this season, but we have not seen, I don't think, Tri-State Racing into victory lane as of yet. We have seen them come close, but never quite able to take that spot. We have never seen as well, we've never seen Torque Racing on victory lane. I don't think we've seen the 555, the DS Racing Esports team GTM into victory lane either, so that's going to be a new one for them across the board.
Like seeing a couple different winners, and you know what? You kind of expect it whenever the rain comes. You think there's going to be a little bit of parity, I suppose. It brings some parity to the field, and we've seen that tonight. Like you mentioned, Tri-State Racing up in the front of the LMP2s. That number 6, I've not seen them up front all season long for the GT Pro. Look at them up there, leading the way. And Cardoso in the 555, still got to think, do they have to come down pit road? Do they have enough gas in the tank to make it to the end? It's looking like they're going to be okay, but they're just going to have to avoid any mistakes because Mitchell is catching them ever so slightly lap after lap.
Not quick enough, though, to be able to make any kind of an effort. So Cardoso would really have to just about lost it there through turn 1. But they would have to have lost it in a pretty big way. Marcelino's in the pit road. Thomas Marcelino could not make it to the end. Remy Loesch will take out the race lead for Rising Panda Racing.
Wait. They pitted 7 laps ago, didn't they? They pitted 7 laps ago. This has to be a drive-through.
Oh, don't tell me.
There's no way this is a pit stop. 7 laps. The guys that just passed him, Rising Panda, they got 13. So this is a drive-through for your race leader.
Oh, no. And that's going to drop them all the way down to 3rd.
Wow.
Talk about a kick in the... Man, that is going to hurt. That's going to sting, though, for them. I mean, knowing that you quite possibly could have won the race... And it comes down to that.
And the thing is, I don't see anything on my overlay that's telling me they crashed, that they wrecked, not even that they went off track. So this had to have been something minor, right? They were sitting at 20Xs, and it was coming out of the kink, dipped 2 tires into the grass. Coming out of the kink, over half of their car off of the curb, and that's going to be the 1X. So hardcore. Going around, losing a spot to Fisher Motorsport. That was an aggressive-looking spin, but able to keep it out of the wall.
The battle for 6th is on as well for LMP2. Going racing to Vulture Motorsports going at it. Vulture with a fine recovery drive. They're looking to battle their way up to a 6th place spot. They were previously down in the 11th, and then all the problems from various drivers have come about and have really helped them to bounce back with a solid finish here.
Yeah, they've been decent in the wet, picking up positions while other people have faltered. Vulture Motorsports in their first LMP2 race of the season, looking to end it out strong, but he's stuck behind a slower car right now. Able to get around the outside, coming through the fast left-hander, coming down to the final corner. They've lost a good chunk of time to going, but they've still got 4.5 minutes to gain it back. Another 2 laps on offer for you.
Right now, this is the lone battle on the racetrack that is under a second. You just barely see them in the spray. Going racing. Takes it to the inside of the Vulture Motorsports Ferrari, trying to get some distance on the Vulture Motorsports LMP2 runner just behind. The GTM entry sure isn't making it easy. And going slides out wide. Here comes Vulture to the inside. Cutting in for turn number 3. They're side by side.
What a drive coming out of turn number 3 for Vulture Motorsports, looking to take that 6th place spot. They've got the overspeed. They've got it coming down the straightaway, and they take the line. Coming down into the heavy braking zone, this left-hander, 90-degree corner. We've talked about this being a trouble spot. He's just got to hang on to it through here, build out a little bit of a gap. And like you said, what a recovery from that Vulture Motorsports entry in their first race, putting that thing up to 6.
Their first LMP2 race, we should add. Obviously, they've been quite present in GTM and now in GT Pro as well all throughout the season. That was a good drive. And for them to make their first LMP2 start here in 2024, It's going to be, as they go off track, could that be a
No.
chance for going to get it back? It will not. But there was certainly something there. Nicholas Pedersen, meanwhile, believe he has just taken 2 laps to go, trying to hang on. He's got a 14-second gap over Dualdo, who's trying to cling on to the second place spot in what would be a year best finish for the Acura outfit.
Yeah, he's trying to hang on. Demai looks a little bit quicker behind him, though. He's got up to the back of Toldo, only 2 seconds between them. It was a whole heck of a lot bigger after the 111 came out of pit road. Toldo tiptoeing around, just trying not to overstep his boundaries like the 123 has. They just came down pit road for that pass-through penalty, and now they're back off into the dirt. Their hopes for second probably gone. Go in. Once again, the same corner. He's had a heck of a time going through there time and time again and finds himself in the gravel trap. Once again, coming to maybe 1 lap to go.
Quintana and Livier both take 2 to go in the meantime, as they work their way through turn number 1, taking care not to flirt with the curbing down to the right side of the racetrack. So the world of sim racing, BMW still hanging on against the kinetic racing Porsche. You reckon he can do it for another 2 laps here? Oh no, Cardozo's into pit road. Is this,
Oh no!
could this be another drive-through?
Well, I was talking about they might have to make another pit stop. They were the one car that I was a little concerned about.
They
and they're
couldn't
coming
make
down.
it.
Yep.
Oh,
And
boy.
1 lap, man. 1 lap. That's all they needed because they just got passed by the GTP leader. Oh my word, they were 1 lap short.
Still trying to get out of pit road. Here comes Quinn Mitchell with the digital chicane crew. White flag very much in the air. Digital chicane takes the lead of GTM.
Oh man, heartbreak for the 555. Just 1 lap too short is going to relegate them to second in the GTM field. Still a great finish for them, but you got to feel that's a heartbreaker for those guys coming to 1 minute to go. The MSP number 3 looking like he is going to be the guy to win it, as he's got half a lap left on offer. And a little bit further up, that second place battle in the GT Pro field is still heating up. Just 0.3 of a second between the two, coming out of the carousel and down to the kink.
Battle is on as they are trying to see if they can't take up the white flag this next time by. World of Sim Racing has got a lot that they have got to try to cling on for a long while yet. Kinetic with plenty of opportunities still to go in about the next lap and a fifth. 30 seconds on the clock. MSP working through the carousel for the final time.
Pedersen's been clean all race long, just really hasn't put a wheel wrong, been very consistent through the rain, not really making any major mistakes, coming through the kink for the last time, avoiding that inside curve, avoiding the outside curve. There are huge puddles on both sides. And man, you just can't even see in front of him. Look at all of that spray, all of the traffic in front of him. Not what he wants to see coming to the checkered flag.
Mayor Simspeed Performance works their way in towards the final series of corners. No competition behind. 10 seconds back is Bravo Snow Shatton. And for the number 3 Porsche GTP, they are into the final turn this time by. And once again, Mayor Simspeed Performance find themselves on top as they are going to gun it through and take the GTP win. A little ways back, you've got Remy Loesch for Rising Panda Racing. They are working their way right now through turn number 1 with a good effort to try to see if they can get themselves working. But right now, it is all eyes on others like Jonathan Dance for Torque Freak Racing and Quinn Mitchell coming up the hill to win in GTM.
Yeah, Quinn Mitchell, that number 80 has been quick. The last two races just absolutely flying, and they're going to come through to take the GTM race win. Hell of a job from the 80. They didn't do it without any adversity, or they didn't get through this race without adversity either. They had a couple of spins, able to hang on to the win after the 555 came down pit road. The GTP second, third place drivers, they were side by side coming through the final corner. Demai unfortunately spun it. Just going to have to settle for third. Toldo, though, for Bravo Snow Shatton. Great second place finish as the LMP2s are starting to finish up.
Quite a few of the LMP2s still yet to finish up their race, and a few of them a little ways out still from that run. Let's take a quick look at what happened to Christophe Demay here. Tried to make that look to go for the number 2 spot, and Well, he made the pass and immediately went off and into the grass, into the gravel trap. So Bravo Shat ties it up with their best race win so far of the season, tied it up with Laguna Seca, of course. And then Torque Freak Racing have not found victory lane yet in 2024. It's been quite the drought for the number 6 entry. Looking like they might even be crabbing a little bit down the stretch there, although quite possibly ice playing tricks with all of this water on the racetrack. Torque Freak Racing will come on through for the first time in 2024. They will be your winners in GT Pro.
Great drive from the drivers of the number 6, bringing that thing home, and then a little bit further back, the entire LMP2 field is finished, except for your race winner. He was the only one ahead of the GTP leader coming to the white flag, and Loesch is going to come around to take victory for Rising Panda Racing here from Road America.
First time they've taken the race win since the 12 hours of Sebring, after results were, of course, made official from races elsewhere. What a drive throughout this field, and I mean, what a race. This, it was looking like such a clean race, and then the rain really did flip it on its head, as the rain so often tends to do. Still waiting on the last few drivers to come across the line. Just a few stragglers left before we'll be able to fully wrap this show up, but my goodness, what a run.
Honestly, fantastic racing. You know, you mentioned that the racing got less clean whenever the rain came, but it's not like the driving etiquette went down, right? It was just mistakes in the wet, hitting curves, hitting puddles, getting caught out by things. It wasn't like it was people doing dumb bonsai moves. It was good, hard racing with punishment if you overstepped the boundaries. We saw it time and time again today after the rain fell, and it was fantastic to watch.
Let's take a rundown of your official post-race results this afternoon from the JRT Summer Sprint. You wouldn't know it's summer by looking at the weather right about now, but coming home at the end of the day in GTP, it is going to be Nicholas Pedersen for Mayor Simsby Performance with Bravo Shatton in the number 2 spot. HJC Racing is in 3rd with Boulder City Racing Team in 4th. Fisher Motorsports is 5th. Team Hardcore is 6th. Dealers Racing Team is in 7th. Trady Paints is 8th. Grizzly Motorsports is 9th. 3 laps down. NGC 8 down in 10th. Composite and DS Racing Esports Team not finishing this race in your GTP field.
We're going to move over to the LMP2 race results. Rising Panda Racing pulling home the W in that number 46 entry. GSE Racing Esports in 2nd. Fisher Motorsports rounds out the podium with VRG Sport in 4th. Vulture Motorsports ends up getting up into 5th place. What a job on their first entry into the LMP2 category. 6th place, Go In Racing. 7th, Tri-State Racing's number 123. Scours S's Racing finishes in 8th with Vision 1 Motorsports in 9th. And Tri-State Racing's number 333 and 321 finish in 10th and 11th.
Down in GT Pro, Torque Freak Racing brings it home with their first win of 2024 with World of Sim Racing Team and Kinetic Racing to wrap out the podium, and the cars on the lead lap. Fisher Motorsports and DS Racing Esports Team finished this race 1 lap down. North Sim Racing is 6th, RPM Racing 7th. Delta Racing down in 8th with Fisher, Vulture, and GSC to round out the field, 6, 9, and 16 laps down respectively.
Looking through our GT-AM field, Digital Chicane's number 80 brings home the win. We thought it was going to be the 555, but they were 1 lap short on gas. Digital Chicane's number 93 finishes in 3rd after they had a disconnect in the middle of the race. Came back onto the podium. 83 of Off in the S's Racing finishes in 4th. Real Picture Motorsport in 5th. Mayor Sim Speed Performances number 33 in 6th. And I think the worst finish of the season for your championship leaders, that's at Screeching Moose Motorsports, number 5 in 7th. Dangler Performance, number 16 and 8th. Mayor Simsby Performance, 34 in 9th. Trading Paints Racing's 119 in 10th. Firestone Motorsport in 11th. Butcher Motorsports 016 in 12th. Butcher Motorsports 017 in 13th. And Full Sin Racing rounds out your GTM field.
What a drive then for everybody here in racing action this afternoon, as we've got a host of people able to come on by and give us a chit chat. The first race that went caution free throughout its duration as well, so that is obviously something to note as well throughout the course of this race. And we'll jump back in just a moment and we'll give a chit chat here to some of the folks that finished this race out from the podium, and we'll look to bring up first and foremost the driver of Jason Burney, able to come home and take up, well, one of the drivers that helped to take up the win for the Mayor Simsby Performance this afternoon in his number 3 GTP entry. Jason, what a wild ride it was out there for you guys today. Ups, downs, caught in the middle, and at the end of the day, you survived the carnage to be on top.
Yeah, it was quite the race today. Wasn't expecting that much rain. Luckily, my co-driver Nick was able to just kind of gut it out and keep it clean through the last half of the race and come away with the win.
Kind of walk us through the race as a whole. I know the rain was not something that we were expected to see this afternoon, with it only being about 20-30% chance entering today, and then, well, we got worse rain than we had at Sebring. So kind of talk us through how that changed the strategy for you guys throughout the day.
Yeah, fortunately, it didn't change the strategy for us too much. We were keeping an eye on it throughout. The plan from the beginning was for me to start the race and then keep an eye on the weather to determine if and when Nick would jump in the car. We took a gamble after his first stint with going with wets as we were keeping an eye on the radar and saw some rain coming. So we kind of pushed our luck, and luckily we got fortunate with it paying off. And as he progressed throughout the second stint, the rain just kept coming down, and we were able to keep that the pace up with the wet tires.
You entered this race only 36 points behind HAC Racing for the Sprint Cup Championship. There's one more sprint race to go, and it'll of course be when we return in August after the summer break. Do you reckon you guys will be the ones to take the fight to HAC to go for the Sprint Cup Championship?
That's the plan. Ultimately at the end of the day, we're looking big picture for the overall championship. But if we're in it towards the end of the race, we'll definitely do what we can to give HAC a good run for their money.
Sounds like a solid plan. We'll get set to see you then when we return in about a month and a half. Congratulations on taking the race win after a wild one at Road America. We'll see you in August.
Thank you.
Jason Burney comes home, takes up the race win for the GTP folks, and it was a wild ride altogether for this field. And I think what we could start to do is take a look further down the field. We'll go to Rising Panda Racing, the drivers that finished this race number one in LMP2. We'll bring up Christian Kemprager and Remy Loge, two of the folks that helped to take home the race win for Rising Panda Racing in LMP2. Austin, you're standing by with our LMP2 winners.
Well, Christian, y'all had a heck of a race all day long. The rain came, and y'all seemed to be really, really quick. Lots of mistakes through the field, and then coming to the end of that thing, we thought the LMP2 race was all wrapped up, but the 123 dipped a couple tires into the grass and got a drive-through penalty. What were the thoughts behind all of y'all's minds whenever y'all saw him have to come down pit road and hand over the race lead to the 46 there?
It was the most intense race on the pit wall I've ever had. I had pit wall duty today. The race for us started with an issue. Ryan had issues with his pedals 5 laps in. That's why we had to pit early. We were hoping we would make it on fuel without a splash. Was not that great being in the back of the field, but Remy made it work strat-wise. And then when the rain came, it just turned out that we could. It had 2 laps of rain with a bit of fuel saving to go to the wets. That turned out to work a bit. We had a bit worse tires than the others after they had pitted, but overall, we didn't have to do another pit stop. And Remy was a monster at the end on the new tires after the last pit stop. And shame for the 1, 2, 3 and for 3 State again. So close, but yet so far for them. We had to definitely push a lot on strategy and on the track. I guess Remy can say more about the tracks wise, but the luck was on our side today, despite some of the other sprint races we had. But GG's to the rest. Was a great race for us.
Remy. Oh, sorry, Christian.
All good.
Remy, can you talk to me a little bit about, driving in these conditions? I mean, I've seen heavier raining on iRacing, but it was just so consistent for the last hour and a half, having the water pelt the racetrack. Just how difficult was it to tiptoe around there and try to keep pace and, be able to put yourself at the top step of the podium with such difficult conditions?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I did practice a bit on heavy rain, even if it was not really forecast. But I had some braking point reference and some stuff I knew before, so it helped a lot at the end. And the rain rise steadily through the last hour, so it was not as a shock as a big shower. We had time driving lap after lap after lap. Yeah, it was scary before turn 12, before we are corner 11 and 12 on the back straight, because when we were following 2 or 3 cars, we really can't see anything. So yeah, Chris and Ryan was telling me basically to drive left or right and which type of car was in front and where I had to brake. So in fact, a good teamwork at the end to, yeah, for good thanks to my spotters of the day, because yeah, we have one crash on this straight, hopefully, because they announced it to me pretty early. So yeah, and 200 focus. I think I'm still in the car a little bit. Yeah, it was really intense, and we were not quite pushing a lot because we were already ahead of the going car, and it was a bit of a goal for us championship to gain some points on them and to play for the season in the next race. And so we were doing our job, not pushing more than we can, and yeah, issue in the field did the rest.
Well, the championship battle is tightening up, like you mentioned. Going Racing having a couple bad races in a row, allowing you guys to get a little bit closer, and putting it on the top step of the podium definitely makes it a max points day for y'all. So big congratulations on closing in that championship gap, and congratulations on winning the race tonight from Road America for the LMP2s. Thank you for coming up and talking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, that was Christian Camperger and Remy Loesch for Rising Panda Racing. They're your winners in the LMP2 field. Next up, I believe Nolan Rimple is going to be talking to our race winner in the GT Pro category. That's going to be Jonathan Dance.
Sure is.
Hello.
Jonathan Dance, you come on home, and it was a wild ride for you. You're able to just barely steal away the win there in GT Pro, and oh boy, it was a wild one for Torque Free Racing. Your first win, finally, of 2024. Walk us through it this afternoon, because holy cow, it did not come easy.
No, we were on a really tight fuel save there at the end. We pitted for wet tires and started to realize, wait a second, we can make it if we just really take it easy on fuel. And so yeah, we ended up with quite a large gap as a result of other people pitting and whatnot, and we just had to manage that gap and then also just really manage the fuel. I've never coasted so much in my life. Of course, the wet weather obviously helped a lot with that. So yeah, it was crazy.
For you guys to take your first race win, it's a pretty big one for you guys. I know it's been a bit of a drought for the Torque Freak Racing crew throughout all of 2024 so far. Is this potentially the start of a comeback for that 911?
Would like to think so. Obviously, we were really happy with our performance in the wet, even without the fuel strategy. So we love it when it rains, and we'll continue to push on. But yeah, we definitely think the field is very competitive this year, and we've really enjoyed the racing. It's definitely not easy out there. So yeah, we're really proud of the win, and just really worked for us today with the weather.
You entered this race 9th place at the points, about 314 behind Fisher Motorsports, the current leaders of the Sprint Cup entering today. With only one race to go, what's the goal for that number 6 for the final sprint race of the season in August? Is it going to be, do you have any particular place in the championship you'd like to end up?
Not sure. We didn't run Long Beach in this car, so that's why we're behind in the points. We were in GTP at Long Beach. Yeah, we're definitely at a disadvantage there in the points, but we kind of look at it on our own kind of scoreboard of taking that into account and just seeing it, doing the best we possibly can. So I don't know where we'll end up, but we always try to do the best we can and also try to get those bonus points as well for safety. So I think we were on 9X today. We'll see. I didn't actually look at the final standings to see where we ended up on ranking on the incident points, but we always do pretty well there as well.
Well, we'll see how you guys will fare when we run out to the Virginia International Raceway in about a month and a half. Congratulations on finally taking your first race win of the season, and we'll see if you can follow that with number 2 in about 7 weeks or so.
Yeah, have a great summer break, and yeah, thanks for doing the broadcast, and thanks to JRT. We couldn't have won this race without JRT today.
Thank you as well to Jonathan Dance. Coming on up here for Torque Freak Racing, your winners in GT Pro. Bring us on down to the guys that finished this race with the lead in GTM. Matthew Orvech will bring Quinn Mitchell for the sister car as well in as well. So your GTM winners standing by with Austin Edstrom.
Well, guys, it's becoming a pretty common occurrence that we get to talk to you guys at the end of these things. I feel like y'all are typically one of the quickest ones, if not the quickest in the GT AM field, week in, week out, putting down ridiculous qualifying times. But this one didn't come without a little bit of hairiness, I'd say. A couple little spins, trading the lead back and forth. Man, what was just running through y'all's minds whenever, like I said, the lead was trading back and forth, and it just seemed like every time we were looking back at either you guys or the 93 or somebody else towards the front of the GTM class, they were spinning out coming through Sector 2.
Yeah, it was a really tricky race. Fortunately, I got to drive the dry section of the race, so that was that was less torrential for me. I had a great qualifying. I almost off-tracked like 5 different times during my quali lap. It was full push, so I was really glad to get that. We had a very good start. Starting towards the front of the pro leaders as well, being able to take overall lead at some point as well through pit stops and. Was able to stay out of trouble, just hand Quinn the car with as many, as little incidents as possible. I only got 2 during the dry stints, and I know there was a mass disconnect that happened for a lot of people too, as the rain was rolling in, so we were a little surprised that they didn't do a red flag or anything like that, but we're pretty grateful that they didn't. It ended up benefiting us quite greatly, so that was interesting to see. But yeah, we had a few spins. It was a little close there with dogs on webs at the end. They had a great run. We were trying to think if they had enough fuel, didn't have enough fuel, and we knew it would be really close to within a lap or two. So it was very great to actually win a race. We've been so close so many times. I know Laguna was great for us as well before we got into a pretty significant incident, which took us fairly out of it. So yeah, it was good to see.
I'm honestly shocked that this is your first win of the season. I know y'all have had the speed to win races, but it just feels like the bad luck has bit both digital chicane cars every single week. So how does it feel knowing that y'all finally got a clean race under your belt to where nothing major happened, nothing crazy happened to the 80? Obviously, the 93 was hit with that disconnect. But for the 80, just be able to put a complete race together and bring it home at the top step of the podium in a dramatic fashion with the 555 having to come down pit road late. How does it feel just to, like I said, get the clean race in, and can you turn that into momentum for the rest of the season and actually challenge that number 5, the points leader, who had a really bad night tonight?
Well, we really hope to. It's with them finishing lower, this is like extremely unfamiliar for them. So hopefully we can make a run with it. This was certainly not an easy race for us. This was one of, I think, for me personally, being in there at the end with it trading back and forth. This was the toughest race I've run in this series. And after the heartbreak at Laguna too, where we thought we really had that one, but we were really confident coming into Road America. We really liked this track. The rain made it interesting, but we're really happy to, finish where we wanted to, and looking forward to VIR and the other endurance races. I think this is a big push of momentum for us that we hope to keep going.
I know we're only 391 back going in on here as well to Screeching Moose, so hopefully we close up on them, and I think we could be up there with them at the end of the season.
Well, I feel like y'all have had the pace to do it. Y'all have been quick week in, week out, so I'm looking forward to seeing that GTM championship battle closing up, because I really think it's going to come down to the wire between you guys and the 5. I feel like they've had great pace, but they've gotten, they've maximized finishes. I feel like y'all have had a little bit better pace, but have been unlucky. So it'll be interesting to see how those two kind of converge at the ending of the season, and we look forward up in the broadcast booth to calling that awesome championship battle. So thank you guys for coming up and talking to us, and congratulations on your first race win of the season.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Alrighty, that was Matthew Orvex and Quinn Mitchell for the Digital Chicane number 80, rounding out the interviews for tonight's race from Road America. What a crazy race we had. Nolan, I don't even know what to say. I mean, this race was just absolutely fantastic from the beginning to the end. a lot of changing strategy, a lot of changing conditions, and it led to an absolute barn burner of a race where we didn't really know who was going to win this thing for a couple of these classes until the last couple of laps.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, this race this afternoon was absolutely insane. And you know it's going to be even crazier when we go racing just a few weeks from now.
Your mic is muted. I don't know if you know that.
Well, it's not on the broadcast, but it certainly was on Discord. So there we go on that one. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be even crazier when it goes on down to the Virginia International Raceway, right? It's known... I've heard two nicknames for it. I've heard it dubbed as America's Motorsports Playground and America's Nürburgring. I don't think I've heard a more apt description than those two in my life for that place. It's going to be insane for the last 2 hour and 40 minute sprint race of the season.
Yeah, I can't wait. They said VIR. I cannot wait to see that thing. And if it rains again, that's going to be a punishing place to run around in the rain. So we'll have to wait and see if we have any forecasted weather. And even if we don't, it's going to be a fantastic race week in, week out. The VSCA Sports Car Championship puts on phenomenal racing.
Coming up, it's the Indianapolis doubleheader on Green Flag TV. We kick it off with the Classic IndyCar Series at the Edifice Grand Prix. That'll be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Pacific time for Green Flag. And then on Monday, the day after, the High Tide Racing League Amateur Designs Cup Series opens up the 2.5-mile oval for a race around the Brickyard to kick off the round of 12 for the playoffs. And then, of course, the OMSRO Cup Series back in action. They'll be racing at Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing, for the season opener. When the VSA Sports Car Championship returns, it'll once again be at VIR on August 24th after about a month-and-a-half long summer break, and they'll be running into the fall. So it'll be a little bit of a farewell for them, but I'm sure we'll be back in action with them before too long. For us here on Green Flag TV, that's all the time we're going to have for one afternoon. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. What a wild ride today it was, and we are in for so much more with the Sprint Championship coming to a close in a month and a half. We'll see you then on Green Flag TV.